I don't think you're a racist. Let's be clear. Like,
It sure feels like you do.
Well,
Because
you're
why
platforming
else?
racist
You
and
said
not
I'm
push-
smart. You said I'm smart.
Well, hold on.
So I must know what I'm doing. So it must be intentional. So when you say I don't think you're racist, I don't believe you. I think you do think that.
I think
and
that if
you're
you are racist,
too
I don't
cowardly to
think
say
you.
it. Okay, my basic general approach to politics or ideas in general is the correct perspective on any philosophical or political issue is arrived at by synthesizing quote unquote right-wing considerations and left-wing considerations. Like any issue, you take immigration. Well, do we want to have completely open borders? No, I'd say that's going too far. That's too far left. Do we want to have an ethno-state where no immigration occurs? No, that's going too far right. So the answer is a synthesis of both considerations.
All right, can I jump in yet, or do you want to keep talking? Because I already got problems.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you're taking two things that are like not even in the Overton window of like what the current political climate is talking about, like Nick Fuentes and like a far left radicalist, and saying, well, both of these things I don't agree with, so I am now going to align myself in the center of the two parties, neither of which are talking about these things.
How do you define what's within the Overton window? What do you determine?
Like anything that's politically viable in any sense of the word, as in not an ethno-state and not open borders.
Politically viable over what time period? You don't think there's any chance that
in the next 10 years, maybe like in the next 5 years, like in any realistic conversation anyone's having about politics today, no one is saying, all right, guys, let's go to Congress and push our ethno-state amendment.
You don't think there's a significant right-wing ethnocentric agenda that is a serious danger at this point in politics?
To define your entire politics as centrism between these two things, which are very fringe and not being like debated on the main stage, where there are mainstream political opinions about Democrats or Republicans that come in and have like actual, abortion debates, gun control debates, like any of this stuff. It's just like, well, actually, I'm in a center because of these two fringe crazy people, regardless of how big of a percentage they are of the population or the political climate. Like that seems insane to me. And also the idea that because these two things are, on opposite side of the spectrum, meaning that you can thus not get into the Democrat or Republican side of that. You have to be in the middle. Like I'm a Democrat and I disagree with both of those things. Why am I a centrist?
What are you progressive?
I'm a progressive, but I'm not pro open borders and I'm not pro.
First off, I'm not a centrist. I never call myself a centrist.
You call yourself a radical centrist.
Correct. Which is very different from centrist or moderate, because moderate centrist is like someone who defends, what the kids call the neoliberal status quo, which I don't think is very good. This libertarian economics kind of corporatist type stuff with like mild social liberalism. It's like, no, I believe that the radicals on the right and the radicals on the left have good ideas to offer, unfortunately. And what I'm trying to do is rob those good ideas from them, so all they're left with is the complete useless nonsense bullshit. Like the
right, but why define yourself based on these radicals that aren't even a majority of either side of this conversation?
Okay.
Like let's say this. I'm coming from this as a Democrat, right? I see a lot of crazy stuff on the left. I see a lot of crazy stuff on the right. However, I have principles that align me with what the Democratic Party advocates for. Why would I say I'm a centrist when I don't align with?
I'm not asking you to. I don't.
Well, why do you say you're a centrist?
You should not. Based on how this conversation has gone the first 2 minutes.
The proverbial you. Why do you say you're a centrist? If this is somehow like these two radical sides have pushed you into the center and not, hey, I have principles and they align with these politicians.
Okay, this is not a very controversial idea to say that it's Hegelian dialectics. It's the golden mean. It's the idea that the correct perspective lies in between two extremes. You're
why?
So you're not because that's just how it is. You just
say it's how it is. That's circular. What do you mean? Why? Why is this the best perspective?
Okay, hold on. Let me. If can I get 30 seconds to frame what I think?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Because I explained, you have the extreme right-wing position, right? Mm-hmm. No immigration, ethno-state type stuff, and the extreme left-wing position, which is open borders. So the correct answer is somewhere in between. Now, you may say, well, that's... Now, hold on. What you're saying is, I don't disagree with that in principle, like in some abstract philosophical sense. What you disagree with is, you think that those extremes are not politically relevant at this point to warrant even having that discussion, and that I'm just out here sort of
not just that, but also that yes, obviously, if you don't agree with either of these radicals, no matter what, your answer is going to be in between here. But to then call that centrism as if there aren't several thousand degrees, radical centrism, whatever you want to call it, is like
the first off, those are memes. Radical moderate anti-centrism, enlightened centrism, radical centrism, PF Jungianism, cultural centrism. They're all just words that I put out there to describe basically the far right is insane and should be pushed back on, and so should the far left.
Okay,
and I don't see how that's even remotely controversial. Now you would say, well, that means I have no principles.
No, I wouldn't say that. But let's pivot off of there to, okay, you say the far right should be pushed back on. One of my big sections here in my document is you platform Stephen Wolfe. And for those of you who don't know, Stephen Wolfe is a Christian nationalist.
Yes, I platform Stephen Wolfe. Yep.
Yeah, hold on, I'll go on. I'm not saying like, oh, just because you did. But like you can talk to people. I'm not saying like, oh, just censor anyone I disagree with. You platform Stephen Wolfe, who's a Christian nationalist who writes a book about how he wants essentially a Christian ethno-state. And your major pushbacks on him seem to be that he doesn't believe in evolution, and that
that's one. That's not the biggest one, though.
The biggest one was the idea of what makes an American, right? Was that the biggest one, or what would you say the biggest one was?
The fact that he believes in blasphemy laws and he's anti-free speech.
That was the biggest one for you. Okay, but you didn't push back on his reluctance to admit that a black person should be considered American. You didn't push back on the fact that he's vehemently anti-gay.
All right, hold on, stop.
Queers are the enemies.
Because now you're just straight lying.
I can show you.
Go ahead. Pull the clip.
Yeah, let's pull the clip. Well, first defend yourself, because first of all, I don't think you. Okay, let's pull the clip.
I know there's some on the right who want to say, blacks are not Americans because they're black, and so I'm like, blacks have been here from the beginning, and so I think, given my own theory of ethnicity, like this is their place. But there is a type of like, I want to say ethnocentrism, but like there is a type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's a clear distinction between the sort of black cultural tradition in America and pretty much everyone else.
Sure. I mean, they literally.
So I think just as like an ethnographer, it'd be right to say that there is a sort of there's a difference between them and the rest. Yes. But not in terms of, but still fundamentally American. That would be ridiculous to deny that, I think.
Did that not like raise any alarm bells in your head of like, wow, this guy's incredibly reluctant to call black people Americans, and like he had to distinguish an entire.
He said like. He just said they're fundamentally American. He said they're different ethnicities.
Oh yeah, he did. So if I were to ask you, hey, are black people American? What would you say?
I'd say, no shit. Lamar Jackson is not an American. What are you, an artard?
Right. And so when you ask a Christian nationalist who has incredibly right-wing radical views, wants to create a Christian ethno-state, hey, are black people Americans? And he has a 10-minute rambling answer about how, well, I mean, I'm a little, and then by the end of it, he's like, well, yeah, but I mean, obviously they're here. So I guess it's fine. Like, does that not, you don't push back on that at all?
No, because unlike you, I listened to 10 hours of interviews with this guy, and I know what his point was. And his point was he defines ethnicity. He defines ethnicity unlike the way that other people define it. He defines it as like it's a combination of culture or something like that. And so when I said, that's why I said, are Irish people a different ethnicity as well? And he would say, that's what my point was. I'm a Polish immigrant. That's a different ethnicity from an American who's been, or what do you call it, a WASP who's been here for whatever, 6, 7, 8 generations like his family was. And I was asking, do you believe, because I specifically wanted to call him on this, do you believe that black people are part of the American ethnicity or not? And that's what we got to the point about sub-ethnicities. And if you read my Substack article, that's my whole point. Black culture American culture? Is black culture American culture?
Of course.
Okay, but I'm an American, so am I part of black culture?
You are part of American culture, which includes
But I'm not part of black culture.
I don't know. Are you? Do you listen to rock?
Okay, this is my point. Is it a racist? Okay, is it racist to say that there's black culture?
No.
As a thing? Okay.
Do you think that's what he means?
Yeah, that's literally what if you listen, did you listen to the whole conversation?
You think that's all he, yeah, no, I listened to the whole conversation. You think all he means is, well, black people have different cultures.
You know what? See, this is, okay, hold on. I gotta calm down for this.
Sorry, by the way, it's been a very hard week for me, and it has nothing to do with you.
That's fair.
So if I'm being a little too aggro over you, it's only because
that's fair. Well, I'm presuming. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the last part you said.
It's only because I was reading your Substack. No, it's a lot of stuff's going on.
Okay,
and you know that, and that's fine.
That's fair. Okay. What I will say is, on this issue in particular, there's a great irony here, because I have a good friend. He's a business partner who is a black Catholic Christian nationalist. Mm-hmm. I told him, and me and him talk pretty regularly about all kinds of
Stephen
topics.
Wolf. Yeah, no, you mentioned him actually in your subject.
Yeah, right. And because before I think it was the day before I interviewed Stephen Wolf, I told him, my friend, I said, I'm talking to Stephen Wolf. He goes, that guy's a fucking racist. I was like, oh shit, okay. Now I knew that he said he wants a white ethno state. Now I'd heard him talk about American ethnicity, and he expressed like, well, if there's in interracial marriage, you'll find problems that are not there in marriage between people of the same race. So I'd heard him talk about this, and I was like, fuck, what does he believe? Hence me bringing him on
just cut out.
to ask it.
You still there? Can you guys hear?
Can you hear me?
Okay, you're back. Go ahead. You heard him talk about this, was the last thing I said.
Yeah. So I brought him on to ask him directly, are black people part of the American ethnicity? And do you agree that all of the fucking freaks who say, well, we need to deport black people, or black people are not true Americans or whatever, like the Thomas Rousseau head of Patriot Front, do you agree they're wrong? And he said, and if you listen to the end,
he said, I guess black people, as I define it, as in they have a history here.
Okay.
And that's what I consider to have, be an American. That's what makes someone part of the country.
So, all right. Because we're just going to be speculating on what's going on in his mind. He could be I just told you, my black Christian nationalist friend said this guy's racist. So and he could very well be, and maybe he is.
Okay.
And that's why I brought him on to ask him. So are you saying that because I didn't challenge him in the way that you particularly wanted to?
Yeah, that you bring him on and kind of validate ideas and say, okay, cool. Hey, you know what? Sure, that is a cool idea. Mr.
And
White
this is
wants to kick out everyone. Yeah, that's bad. I would say that's bad. And it's not centrist. It's very much like hey, I am very open to your very right-wing ideas. Okay,
I have a very high tolerance for bullshit. And what you just said, what you just said is I enabled a guy who wants to kick out white people. When I just specifically asked him, are those people who want to kick out black people freaks? He said, yeah, that's ridiculous. They're not here.
But again,
this is not
kick them out freaks.
Okay.
By the way, I think your biggest gripe you said was that he's for blasphemy laws. You're a free speech absolutist. But in that same conversation, you also say, hey, I would be okay with deporting 1,000 Marxists and bringing in 1,000, Chinese Christians, right? Which is,
yeah, I thought that was hilarious. I would gladly deport. What did you?
Is that free speech absolutist though?
Repeat what I said.
You said I would gladly deport 1,000 Marxist, communist, college students to bring.
No, that's not what I said. You're purposely leaving out the most important detail.
What's the detail? I might have forgotten it.
I said I would gladly deport 1,000 white college communist Marxists.
Excuse me, white. Yeah, sure.
Hence proving, and and replace them with 1,000 Chinese Christians. Well, he said, yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, he said, well, I don't know. The Chinese have their own problems, but I guess, and he kind of reluctantly agreed with you.
Yeah, after 1,000 Christians. Okay, I don't care.
But hold on. But I'm not talking about him there.
Stop.
I'm pointing at you in this.
No, stop. Because I'm not going to have what happened on Destiny's thing. Stephen Wolf, I reject his beliefs about free speech, and I reject if he is
you keep cutting
hiding his power level.
Okay, he's back. You're back. It's just like for seconds at a time. It might be on my end. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
Guys, if it's happening, someone say something in the chat so I know it's just me being stupid and let him talk, and then I'll catch the rest. But go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's just get to the bottom of it. Do you think I am in favor of let's say he's right. Let's say he hates.
You said
black
you're
people.
Sympathetic to the idea of Christian nationalism, right?
I am sympathetic to some ideas in Christian nationalism. Like we should,
which ones?
We need to have a common religious grounding in our society. And our society is fundamentally based on Christian principles. That's, in my opinion, indisputable and not at all a controversial.
Based on Christian principles is very different from, I think we should have a common religious value, right? Like if you say that
I'm using those interchangeably. I'm using those interchangeably. Do I think we should have a state religion?
Well, yeah, but but that doesn't mean that you support Christian nationalism.
I don't support Christian nationalism.
You support ideas that come from places like the Bible, but you don't support any sort of...
1 second. I'm going to channel my inner Jordan Peterson. I'm going to view, you're Kathy Newman right now, okay? And I have to do my best to just lean back because you're saying you support Christian nationalism. Nope, I do not support Christian nationalism.
No, I'm saying you're sympathetic to the idea of Christian nationalism.
No, I'm not. I never said that once ever.
Let me see what your exact quote was because I have it here. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, though.
I'm
whatever your true opinion
to
is.
some ideas in Christian nationalism. It depends on what you define by Christian nationalism.
Okay, what do you define Christian nationalism as, and what ideas are you sympathetic to?
What I just said. I think we need to recognize that Western morality is based on Christian presuppositions.
Okay.
The idea that all men are created equal.
Why do you have to say I'm sympathetic to some ideas of Christian nationalism?
Maybe to appeal to people who are Christian nationalists.
Is that the best way to advocate for the idea of, hey, we shouldn't kill people? Well, it's in the Bible, so I guess I'm kind of part of these ideas I think are cool when you're associating yourself with Stephen Wolf, a guy who wants to kick out all the non-white, non-Christian people. Like, don't you see how that's kind
joking?
Of like not?
All right, hold on. I genuinely can't tell now if you're joking.
I'm not joking. But
he wants to kick out all of the black people. Did you just watch the fucking clip?
No, he wants to kick out all the non-white, non-Christian combined into one Venn diagram of all the everyone who is not Christian. Really, he said that?
People. I've listened to 10 hours of his stuff. If he said that, I would have pulled that up immediately.
How do you get a white ethno-state without kicking them out?
Who? Okay.
How do you get a Christian nationalist state without kicking out people who are not Christian nationalists?
Okay, this is uninteresting to me.
Yeah, I know. I watched your stream yesterday where you said, I can't believe we're talking about politics. I want to talk about something interesting. But
yeah,
like,
something,
okay, what do you want to talk about?
Something productive, like the underlying philosophy, like the underlying idea that the Western morality is based on Christian principles. That's the fundamental idea I'm sympathetic to.
But isn't that just like self-evident? Like obviously the people who founded the country like did this. Like,
fine, it's self-evident.
No, if
anything else that's not that?
If it's not, tell me.
I think it is self-evident. That's why I support that.
But do you support it because it is where we came from? Like that's like I support the idea that the country has evolved and has principles that I like. I like free speech. I like that we don't murder each other.
I agree with all that.
That's all. Yeah, I know you do, and that's great.
What do you? How about here's a better question. Let's just do this because you're asking me to spec. Because are you asking me if I
do have you on the back foot a lot. If you want to try to push back on stuff, go ahead.
No, I'm trying to channel Jordan Peterson right now and just laugh. What do you think I believe that you?
Don't cry on me. That's a Jordan Peterson.
What I will. What do you think I believe that you disagree with? Not like how I go about doing things.
Sure. Okay. The whole idea that like Brett Cooper and this like radical centrism is this way forward where you're taking the best idea, culturally centrist. You're right, yeah. Obviously. Because like you're very aware. I know you're not. By the way, the reason I didn't just reject the idea of even talking to you outright is because I don't think you're stupid. Like you clearly can absorb information. You have interesting ways of talking.
Tell Destiny's fans that.
Well, don't get me wrong. I think your ideas are really stupid, but I think that you can have better ideas.
I think you're very narrow-minded and do not recognize the importance of validating people we disagree with, even if we find some of their beliefs disgusting. I promise you,
I absolutely agree with the idea of validating certain people's beliefs in order to change their minds. I think the way that
even if they're disgusting and terrible, and some of those beliefs are horrible, you don't.
I think
you can validate the reason they feel a certain way.
Do you have any Republican friends? Like if you think Trump's a fascist, like are you friends with Republicans? And I do, and I validate their feelings.
Do you have friends who are racist or misogynist?
Probably, yes. Okay. I don't know if they'd ever admit it, but yeah, and I try to.
No, do you have friends that are openly racist and misogynist? Because I do.
Openly, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. That's say the N-word.
How can you be friends with someone who is like openly hasn't? Well, first of all, if you don't think those ideas are bad, that's a whole other story.
I think those ideas are terrible.
But how can you put your trust and love into someone who's supposed to be your friend if they can so easily hold these ideas that as soon as they were turned against you, I don't
necessarily put my trust in them.
They're your friends. You don't trust them.
I have dumbass friends who I wouldn't trust in many situations. I might trust them.
Maybe you extend your monkey spirit far beyond what I
might. For example, this is very interesting. Okay, now I'm certain that we are on completely different pages here. Sure. Not that that wasn't apparent in the beginning. Sure. I think it's like I have friends who are depressed drug users.
Okay.
They are also very racist.
Okay, well,
is the best thing for me to do to every time they say something racist, just condemn them and show them how much morally superior I am?
No, the best thing to do, in my opinion, the way that I form friends is if I think that this person holds.
No, I'm not asking. What do you think I should be doing?
Right. What do you think I should be doing? I don't think you could be pulling these people out of an ideology that is incredibly harmful to people around them and would be incredibly harmful to you were they to turn it on you. I think you should be friends with them. I think you should cut these people off.
Okay, so is that what you think I should do? You think I should cut off my friends?
I think that if your friends are vehemently racist,
okay, I think
you're telling you to not be friends with people who are vehemently racist.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. No. I just told you. I have a specific friend in mind who is depressed and a drug user.
Is the depression
and he also says the N-word
to be? Well, okay. Wait. Hold on. If he just says the N-word, if he's like, I don't know,
that's not
what
racist?
The context is. It depends on the context. If like
he gets like mad and says like fuck these N-words.
Okay, so he hates black people.
Seems like it.
And you're friends with him.
Correct. Yes.
Do your black friends feel a certain way about you being friends with this person?
You think I would bring?
Friends? I don't know.
Yeah, you think I would bring the person who says the N-word around anyone I hang out with? Anyone, not even if they're black.
Circle of people that are like, well, I have one friend and he's a Christian nationalist, and this friend wants this friend to die, or he wants to expel this person from my country.
Okay.
Does that just like I? Don't get me wrong. I have very strict criteria.
Have you considered that one of the reasons I maintain the friendship is because I don't want to further isolate him. And when I have the opportunity to say, hey, you understand that when you say the N-word, I literally will never bring you around another human being. And then that creates an incentive for him to not do that.
Does he stop? Because you just told me, do you want my idea to be that I should call him out for all of it? And I was like, well, I think you should cut him off. But is that what you do? Do you call him out every time he does it?
Not every time, but sometimes.
Okay, and has it got him to stop whatsoever?
It's certainly, he's certainly much, what would you say, less racist than he used to be. That's for sure.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Good thing I didn't abandon him and say, well, look how morally superior I am.
I think I might actually agree with you. Okay, the reason I'm still friends with my Republican friends is because I think that because we have this established background, because we have this like rapport already, and then politics has kind of divided this more, I do agree. Yeah, you can pull them a little more to your side. And if that's not what you're doing with your friend, I fully support that. In fact, I think you're a better person for it. I actually really appreciate
Correct.
that you
I think racism is a fucking disgusting...
I know that. I don't think you're racist. Let's be clear. Like,
it sure feels like you do.
Well,
because why else? You said I'm smart. You said I'm smart.
Well, hold on.
So I must know what I'm doing. So it must be intentional. So when you say I don't think you're racist, I don't believe you. I think you do think that.
I think that if you are racist, I don't think you think you're racist. I think that there's a very big difference between someone who we had openly...
I am racist. I hate white progressives.
That's fair. I mean,
more so than any other race of progressives.
No, they're disgusting. Yeah, we smell bad.
So and I sort of mean that unironically.
No, that's fine.
So I am racist.
No, but you got to understand, when I call someone a racist, like I try to use the word not the way that most people do, where, you know, like a Robin DiAngelo DEI folks is like, well, you participate in white supremacy, so you're a racist, versus, hey, my friend is calling black people the N-word openly and aggressively because he hates them. I would try to save it a little more for that. Maybe you have an aversion to like Cuban food, whatever. Like, I'm not going to call you a racist for that. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, you have not struck me as someone who is like explicitly
Why do you think
racist.
I platformed someone who you think I think is a racist then?
Because you have this dumb idea that if I just listen to both sides that are the most radical, somehow I can synthesize the best position.
So let me ask you a question.
Out of Christian nationalism
So
and,
my
and
audience,
communist open borders.
Okay. So let me ask you this. My audience, well, a good chunk of them hate me, which I appreciate.
I did see your most recent video. You're reading all your hate.
It's a long-term strategy I'm working on. It'll pay off. Don't worry. But the people that do, the people that do like what I have to say or do agree with me, the people who would consider themselves enlightened centrists. Yeah.
Enlightened or radical? Which one do you want me to use?
I alternate. For terminally online spaces, I like enlightened.
Okay.
For the average person, it's radical, and for everyone else, I'm culturally centrist.
Oh, that's the normie version, right?
Yeah, that's the normie version, exactly.
Okay.
A big chunk of my audience are huge free speech, like absolutists, basically, right? Like me. I mean, I am that. So I brought Stephen Wolfe, the guy who wrote The Case for Christian Nationalism, on. And before we talked about anything, the first thing we talked about was how he wants blasphemy laws. He thinks that it's okay to censor free speech if it disagrees with his Bible or his biblical interpretation. Now, do you think... Now, what is the outcome of that? Do you think people who watch that go, oh my God, we're going to abandon all of our principles and now give up on free speech and support blasphemy? Or do you think what I did was expose centrists, who are, of course, naturally right-leaning, to the single most dumbest fucking thing that a Christian nationalist believes, which is support of blasphemy laws?
I think if you go through and read your Substack back and you think that everyone took away mostly that you vehemently disagree with him completely and not, well, I don't like what he says about free speech, but, and then a bunch of stuff about, well, I kind of do agree with all this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I think you can do that with anyone. I could do that with a communist. I could do that with a Nazi.
If Adolf Hitler came back from the grave today and he said, I fucking love dogs, I'm going to agree with him, but I'm not going to have him on my show push back on a little bit of the Nazi stuff and then talk about how much I love dogs.
Yeah, so I'm not taking you seriously because if you're thinking what I did is comparable to platforming Hitler,
No, it's not comparable because
No, I agree,
Hitler
it's
is
not
much, much, much
comparable.
worse. But
Yeah,
you're
it
platforming a
categorically
man who,
different.
first of all,
Okay.
first thing. So you push back on the blasphemy laws. We didn't really cover this when we talked about deporting white Marxist communist students.
Yes, and replacing them with 1,000 Chinese Christians.
Do you not think that's a little at odds with your absolutist free speech?
I think it's
position?
hilarious.
I
No,
don't
it's
care
nothing to do
if
with
it's
free
funny.
speech.
Well, their speech or their opinions cause you
No,
to
it's not
say,
because
I'm
they
okay with
say
supporting
it's
them.
not because they say stupid shit. It's because I don't like them and they're cringy.
Okay, why don't you like them?
Bad vibes. Can't explain it.
How do you get the vibes? Is it like you just the aura when you stand next to them, or
Can't
This is one of
explain
the-
to
if this
someone
one's just
why
a
a
joke
joke
and it's
is
irony,
funny.
okay. No, if it's just a joke, but I'm saying you seem pretty
Everything I do
serious
is
about
just
the
a
idea.
joke.
Well, if the whole thing, then I don't
You
have
think
a
I'm
problem
s-
with you. This,
so
like I
wait.
said, this is a masterful troll. If this whole thing's a joke, but like I again, like
Yeah,
doesn't-
well,
seems like this is
okay.
real persona.
Well, because I think part of the reason I lean into the joking thing is because, as I'm recognizing this conversation, some people are just not in the mood. Let's say. I think you're perfectly capable in other circumstances. I think you're a progressive and you hate fence-sitting moderate centrists, and they're much like Martin Luther King and many other people.
It's funny. I don't even hate them. I'm just upset that they're too scared to call themselves right wing when that's 99% of the time what they are.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
It just seems kind of silly.
yeah.
like,
well,
okay, you're
when I talk
sympathetic-
to Andrew Wilson, he says the
Andrew
exact
Wilson's
same thing, except I'm a
pretty
progressive with a
radical.
speed limit.
Yeah, I know. That's what the right wings say when they talk
Yeah.
about centrists.
So-
they're
so-
progressive
so-
with speed
so
limits.
if- so a
What's
bunch
your
of
most
leftists
progressive
call
ideal?
me-
I mean, you're happy Trump got elected, right? You said that in your CJ conversation.
No, I'm not
Is
happy.
that you
I'm happier
said-
that Trump won over Kamala.
Okay, we can play the semantics game. You're happy that Trump won, right?
That's a very different thing. No, I'm
You're
not
happy
happy that Trump
Kamala
won.
lost. Okay,
No.
you're not happy with Trump.
I'm not happy with Trump. No,
Okay,
I'm happier
who
that
is your
Trump
ideal
won.
candidate?
Bernie Sanders probably. I
Really?
would have voted for Bernie Sanders over Trump in a heartbeat. I voted for Jill Stein.
Well, Jill Stein is like not a serious human being. She goes into a
I
hole
agree.
for 4
She
years,
had
comes
no
out,
chance
and
to
then-
win. I was trying to send a message. But I
So
would absolutely vote for Bernie Sanders
Okay, why?
because I think his economic policies align more with me.
Okay,
I think he has the right attitude on the Israel-Palestine issue, which is an important issue right now.
okay,
Those are two big ones.
okay. Why vote for Trump over Kamala if your economic positions align with Bernie Sanders? Or why be happier that Trump won over Kamala if you're
Because I think he's more likely to deploy the military to the border, which is probably the most pressing issue.
Okay, so you're.
Would you like to know why I think the border is the pressing issue?
Sanders. No, we can get into that, but because
Okay.
Bernie Sanders, you would vote for because of his econ policies, and Kamala Harris would, in my opinion, maybe you don't agree, would put us closer to that. Obviously, not close enough for what I would want, but closer. But you
No,
would
I don't
vote for
think
Trump
so.
because
I
the
think
border
Kamala
is
Harris-
more important.
I-
Trying to. That wasn't me being like, oh,
Sure.
this is ridiculous. I mean, I do think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
silly,
No,
but
no.
like, is that
I
your
love
position?
Bernie
Is that
Sanders. No.
immigration is more important than the econ?
I think Kamala would be as much of a tool of corporate interests as any other politician, and Trump.
You think Obama is a tool of corporate interests?
I think Obama was a continuation of the Bill Clinton sort of neoliberal economic status quo, which I disagree with.
He got us closer to a universal healthcare system than, say, any right-wing politician, right?
Yeah, sure, that was good. Obamacare was probably good overall. I don't know much about healthcare.
But then that's what I'm saying. You don't think like a Kamala or a Joe Biden would be pushing us in a more left-wing healthcare position to what you would
No,
want
I
with a
don't.
Bernie thing?
I think pharmaceutical interests are pretty well entrenched, which is why the DNC kneecapped Bernie multiple times.
No, I'm not saying that obviously they have the exact same policies. I'm saying obviously one of these parties is going to be pushing us a certain way. This is what I mean when I'm like, why would you be a centrist? If you align so clearly with a Bernie Sanders on this very clear progressive left policy,
Yeah.
why even
Because
entertain the idea?
I'm not super progressive, and I disagree with Bernie on a lot of stuff.
If you would vote for Bernie as your ideal politician, obviously not the best, but the best out of all of your options.
The ideal, like of the most realistic ones. What do you mean?
Okay,
my
well, here we
ideal?
go.
My ideal would be
Who would you
my
vote
ideal.
for if it was your ideal? Okay, obviously
That's a good question.
right? Because they would agree with everything.
I was okay. I'm thinking of the actual potential people that could have
Right, and that's
been
what I'm
elected.
saying too.
What's my
Right,
ideal?
for the viable candidates?
I don't know.
Bernie Sanders has progressive healthcare policy. You agree with this? This is why
Yep.
he would be the most ideal out of the viable options, and yet is immigration then obviously a more important policy to you? So why even bring up Bernie Sanders? Like if Trump,
I think Bernie
you
would have
vote
done a
for
good job on the
Trump.
border too. He's explicitly stated open borders as a Koch brothers idea, which it is.
Okay, but Kamala Harris isn't for open borders.
I think Kamala Harris is much worse on borders than, well, Bernie Sanders, but Trump, which is more relevant here.
Do you think Bernie Sanders would be stricter on immigration than Kamala Harris?
Yeah,
In
I
what
think
way?
so. Because he recognizes that because he's pro working class, if you have a lot of immigrant labor that's coming here as economic refugees that competes with working class.
No, I know he recognizes
wages.
that. He talked about that in the H-1B stuff, but what would he policy-wise do
I don't
to
know.
secure the border more strictly?
I don't know.
This is what I'm saying. Like,
It's a
if
vibe
you
thing.
agree... Okay. If Trump's immigration policy is clearly what you support more, why say that Bernie would be your ideal candidate if you seem to be more focused on the border and Trump
Because-
has your border policy?
Because I think Bernie would also be able to secure the border just like Trump might, and he might not. We might be fucked no matter who's president, and be lied to no matter who's president. We're all at the whim of billionaires no matter what, it seems like. So maybe none of it matters. I don't know. But if I'm going to bet, I'd prefer Bernie over Trump, and I would have voted Bernie over Trump. But if it's Trump versus Kamala, then I guess I'm fucked, and I'll go with Trump. Actually, I voted for Joe Biden once again. But I'll say
Jill Stein, yeah, right? In Texas,
Yeah.
you said? Yeah. Did you
Yes,
drive? It was.
I drove 10 minutes and paid $10 to park to cast my vote for Jill Stein, because I wanted to send a message that I think what America is doing in Palestine is disgusting, which it is.
Okay.
And I think what
How do you
Trump
feel
is
about
doing
the
is
Trump stuff?
beyond disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, obviously. Like, I think you've said you disagree heavily with his whole, like, let's invade Gaza and turn it into my, real estate.
Yeah, that's
strip,
an
right?
understatement.
So,
I do disagree heavily with that. But
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
centrist,
super.
so maybe I should support him because I'm really right wing, and I just agree with whatever Trump says.
well,
Oh, wait.
well, yeah, but again, you're still preferring him over Kamala, who wouldn't do that. So I'm a little confused as to why.
I have no idea what Kamala would do, given that Kamala and Biden did abso-fucking-lutely nothing. There's no reason to believe.
You think Kamala would invade?
How do we know? How do we
them all
prove
out?
it? It's a counterfactual or unfalsifiable?
You think it's unfalsifiable to say, well, just because Trump did this radical thing, I don't know that Kamala wouldn't have done this incredibly radical thing that everyone, even including his own administration,
I'm not saying that Kamala would have done the exact same thing. I'm saying Kamala would have done exactly the same amount of nothing to stop Israel from doing what it's doing.
Nothing. One is full deep-throated support of Netanyahu,
Okay,
and the
I don't know
other
what
is
do you
bullshit.
okay.
Like, oh, well, here's my
Okay.
red line. Like, I'm not saying that what she did was playing hardball. It clearly wasn't. But like,
Yeah,
these
she
are
let
very obviously different
Netanyahu
policies.
do whatever the fuck he wanted. Well, Biden did because she wasn't in charge, but
Well,
she would have.
do
I
you
have
think
no reason to believe that
Netanyahu
she would
wants
have
to
done anything
kick
differently.
every Palestinian out because she's not? I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I
she
do.
would
I
let
think
him
he
do
wants.
that.
I think
and
he'd be.
Trump is saying, not only
Just to
am
be
I going to
clear,
let
just
you
to be
do
clear,
it,
just to be
I'm
clear, I
going to
think
do it and help
for
you
the
do it.
record, I think Netanyahu is far worse than Stephen Wolf. I hope that's not controversial here.
That's probably true, honestly. Yeah.
Right.
No, hey,
So,
I like that. Thank you
and if
for
I had the
pointing that out.
opportunity to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu, I think I would.
But
Actually, no, I
would
wouldn't. I'd be
assume-
assassinated immediately. So no, it'd be terrible.
You don't think you'd push back on him?
Okay,
heavily,
we seem to
right?
agree far more than you let on at the beginning.
No, we super don't. I think.
Okay, what do we?
One thing that we've
I have yet
agreed
to
on
hear what we
is that,
actually disagree about substantially.
your entire ideology, first of all. But we
Okay,
we
like I
don't have
said,
to walk in
I have yet
circles
to
about
hear
that.
what specifically. It sounds like we agree that you shouldn't isolate people who
hold
are
on.
racist.
Let me be very clear. Your
Okay.
idea is my ideal ranking for border policy is Trump, then Bernie, and then Kamala, as if like Bernie would not.
I don't
be,
even know. First off, I don't know what Bernie never had to articulate his border policy because they've got fucking kneecapped. So thank you, Democrats. Thank you, Soy Pill, for shilling one-sided vote blue no matter who, because don't be a centrist. So thank you for that, for taking out Bernie. If Bernie had articulated his border policy, I would have been able to look at it. I don't know.
Bernie
And
has articulated border policy before. I don't know it off the top of my head, but he's absolutely talked about it.
He's talked about what?
Bernie Sanders has absolutely talked about what we should do at the border. I guarantee it.
Yes, and what I've heard, although I don't know what his specific, like he didn't have a bullet point policies down because he didn't need one because he wasn't running.
Right.
He's
he didn't
against
have
open
to- well,
borders.
he
No,
would
I'm
talk
against
about it when someone
deportation.
passed it.
I'm against Trump's deportations. I think
Really?
that's stupid. Yeah.
But you're against birthright citizenship. But you're against the deportations?
Okay, first off, those are two completely different things. So let's stick with one thing first.
But they're pretty ideologically aligned.
Let's
but
stick
okay,
with one thing first, the
let's go through
deportations.
each one,
I'm
yeah.
against the deportations.
Okay, why?
I think they're inhumane. What are you going to just knock down some grandma's door? You're going to cause all kinds of civil rights violations. I think it makes much more sense to say, if you've made it here so far, okay, well, that's kind of fucked that you broke our laws, but fine. We're going to deploy the military to the border, and we're basically putting a moratorium for like a year on immigrant. No, not a single other person crosses the border.
Okay, and then process the people that are in the country.
Yes, and then we say, okay, there's a whole,
thing.
there's a ton of people. We need to give them, and I'm even like, this could be a decades, it wouldn't be a moratorium for decades, but it would be severely restricted for decades, which we've done historically. We say, let's give everyone here time to assimilate, and also figure out if there's any fucking terrorists like over the border, because my main fucking problem is the fact that we have an open border puts us is probably the single biggest national security risk we face. Okay, we know that, for example, there are Chinese nationals who have come over the border that we barely fucking track or lose track of. We lost track of, I think it was 50,000 children or more who are like the high profile ones.
The numbers I hear from Republicans are hundreds of thousands, but
okay, well, that's probably, well, maybe I'm underestimating it. Okay, but whatever. You understand that there's a possibility we go to war with China over Taiwan, right? That's not completely out of the question.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so if I'm China, and I know that the United States has an open border, unless I am truly schizophrenic and everyone in the CCP all collectively did heroin at the same time during the military strategy meeting, the number one thing I would do, and Iran would do this as well because Iran funds proxies, is send specially trained operatives to the fucking Darien Gap and come up to our exposed border. And then in the event of a war with China, you ever walked by a substation? You ever seen how fucking exposed those things are? A substation.
What's a substation?
A substation is where power from generators are, I believe the term is, it's something like decompressed. You have very high voltage power lines.
Oh, yes.
And before it can go into your and my house, it has to go through a substation.
Yes,
it's a little like 50 square yard thing with all kinds of shit. If that goes out, the power's out for the entire chunk of the power grid. Okay, so you have one coordinated attack on those, which is easy as fuck to do. You can take them out with guns or get a propane bomb and blow them up. Okay. The idea that that is out of the realm of possibility is delusional and absurd. I don't even think,
first of all, hold on. You said they know we have open borders, which I don't think that's true. But let me just start on what you just said. I know that's true because that's literally happened, right? People have done like attacks in the past 4 or 5 years. They like have shot those up or something and had caused power outages. Yeah,
uncoordinated.
100%. Yeah, of course that's happened. But to say that my primary and most important issue is I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, who will do this thing that I think is incredibly inhumane and terrible. But he will maybe secure the border in a way that will prevent potential subversive Chinese or Iranian nationals coming into the country and doing this potential attack for a war that hasn't happened yet. Seems a little bit of a stretch.
When you phrase it like that, it does seem as dumb
when
as
I say
sounds.
Your whole position out loud.
In the most charitable way.
Well, it's not charitable. That's what I just heard.
I know.
What about that do you disagree with?
I think that the threat of coordinated attacks coming from people that made it through the border, I think anyone who thinks that isn't a possibility or even
I didn't say it wasn't a possibility, but how likely do you think that is? And
I don't know. Well,
how much more important is that to you?
Let's use common sense. Let's use common sense.
I hate that word. What's common sense?
Let's do the probability. What do you think what is the probability that China has explicitly thought about doing this and said
100%?
Okay, well, what is the probability that they've executed on this?
That they've already done it?
That there are Chinese nationals here. Yep, given that the CCP
let's just say
knows that
100%. I'll give you. Hold on. Let me skip all this. I think they've thought about this. They probably have people in our country. There are definitely spies in here, and this is definitely part of something they've considered. Sure. Now, what you have to consider is now what percentage of whether or not this turns the tide of the war do you think is going to be like just because this
I'm not
happened
concerned about
now,
the tide of the war.
Fuck the entire.
No, I'm concerned about my power going out for multiple months on end and then dying because I'm fucking like you, a soy, and I would immediately die in the event of an extended power outage.
Okay, so your number one issue, and I'm going to try to say this charitably, is that because of Kamala Harris. Not as strict border policy, there is more opportunity, if not a greater opportunity, for Chinese and Iranian nationals to come across the border, get lost in the system, and then have now plans to execute a power shutdown of the country by shooting these substations,
Coordinated attacks,
or blowing
on
them up, or
infrastructure.
what
Yep.
coordinated attacks on the American infrastructure,
Yep.
and taking out your power, causing you to die because of lack of logistics, groceries, heating.
Panic attack. It'd just be an extended panic attack, probably, and I die.
Oh, yeah, I'm so startled by the fact
Yeah.
that the Chinese are here now. The Chinese panic.
Yeah.
That's your number one issue.
Number one issue in what? Politically?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call it my number one issue. There's like 50 different issues.
But you are
AGI will
happier
kill us
that
all, probably.
Trump won over Kamala because of this issue. You think this is like the most prescient,
I think if I were to
important
rank
thing to
order
happen.
federal policies, I think immigration, I think the border policy is among the most important ones domestically. Yeah, probably.
because of the potential Chinese
Because
attacks
of-
on our substations?
Yes. Yes, among other things. Does that sound somewhat paranoid to you?
Incredibly paranoid. I'm not saying it's
See,
impossible.
Well, but that's because this is the war that I always fight in myself, is like, wait a minute. I live in the 21st century. I'm rich. I have iPhones. I've never struggled like anyone in
You
the
cut
world.
out again. God damn it. I'm sorry. I think it's when you touch the back of your mic.
I think
I don't
you're
know.
right. I'm going to not do that.
Sorry about that.
The reason
By the way, do you consider that a centrist position, just off the top of your head?
it's my position. I don't know. I don't care enough to call it a centrist
Well,
position.
you call yourself to call yourself a radical centrist. Like,
Yeah, but no,
But
I
here's the
really
thing.
am
Again,
anti-centrist.
this
I
is
flex in and out when it's useful to me.
clearly, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like, if you were just like, hey, I'm like a conspiracy theorist, I take some ideas from the left, but I don't think I'm a centrist because I fall squarely on the side of immigration's my number one policy.
Well, what
I'm
should I
scared of the
say?
Chinese.
What label should I call myself?
I'm not centrist. Jesus Christ, I don't know. I would put
Well,
you
what's
somewhere
what's
in
a
the right.
label that what if you were like, I'm being honest, this is a serious question. Like, okay,
No, I know.
maybe
but,
centrism
to be
is
fair,
wrong.
I
And
don't know
given
what
that-
label I would give you, but I don't think centrist is the right one.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, well that's very helpful. If you offer me an alternative, should I call myself progressive?
guys, chat. This is the first time I'm going to talk to chat. Guys, hit me up with some better contenders for what you would categorize this. Libertarian conspiracist. I don't think you're a libertarian, right? Not at all. In
No,
economics,
the only
yeah.
person dumber than a socialist is a libertarian.
I could agree with the fact that libertarians are dumb. All right, everyone's just being mean now. All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't have a label for it, but I just don't think this is a centrist position. But you were saying
Okay,
before you got
that's
really
fine.
interrupted by your own mic.
Yeah, well, I think it is kind of paranoid, but I go back and forth. Am I paranoid, or am I just unbelievably arrogant to think that for the rest of my life I will never suffer serious civil societal chaos, even though the entire history of humanity is characterized by that, even though there are millions upon millions upon millions of people as we speak who are suffering that, but because I'm an American and because I've never personally experienced it in my 28 years, it probably will never happen. I go back and forth. I'm either paranoid or I'm arrogant. I'm probably both.
I'm confused about the arrogant part. I mean, I don't think you're insane
Why would
to
you-
think this is a possibility.
Well, then-
Because obviously it could be. Like,
Okay, but
this is
why-
literally happened, right? It's not about like, oh, whether or not this is like it's possible that a Chinese person from the military came in and could do this. Yes,
It's not just. I'm
but
not specifically like. Well, it's a Chinese person who came in and shoots at the substation.
coordinated Chinese attack to disrupt the
Or
American
even just an
infrastructure, sure.
Iranian cyber attack.
Or that, yes. Yeah, like obviously these are possibilities, but to dictate
Yeah.
the way that you are happy about the outcome of the election based on what probability you think this is actually going to happen, like this is not what most people would consider, first of all, culturally, radically, or enlightened centrists, but just in the realm of any possibility. Like not a single politician is talking about this as like this is the reason we have to do this. They
Well,
are
that's not
talking
true.
about, well, yeah, they are talking
Grid
about, hey,
resiliency
there are,
is actually one of the most like popular talking points, and I actually happen to know that in Dallas, the city I'm on, they're working on grid resiliency projects because they recognize
that's
how much
true.
of a problem this is.
And let me take that back. Obviously, they are saying like, hey, MS-13, all these foreign nationals are coming across the border. We don't know
Yeah,
who they are.
yeah.
They're saying this, but it's very baffling to me that this is like your number one policy, especially if you would otherwise vote
Okay,
for Bernie
well,
Sanders.
maybe I'm slightly more anxious. Maybe I'm much more anxious than you are.
This is I have a section on here on conspiracy theories. Okay, you wrote the
Great.
Substack article on. Let me shrink this down a little bit so I can click on this little buddy here. This is the one on the Cybertruck explosion. You remember that one, right? This happened very recently.
The explosion or the guy running the truck into the crowd?
The guy that was outside of the Trump Tower. Do you want me to just link you your Substack? Here.
Oh, is that the one with the passport that was intact or whatever?
That is the one with the passport.
Yes.
The ID that was intact.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what
did I say on
about? Well, hold on. That's gonna freeze the video when I click on this because the way this works. Let me see if I can open your Discord in the side window. Do that. So move your face around so I can see if you're actually moving. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Where do I grab this? God, this Discord is so stupid. It like permanently puts itself in the top overlay. All right. So yeah. So your idea is the Cybertruck exploded, and the conspiracy is, well, how if his body was like unidentifiable, did his ID survive? Like
Michael.
so
I think it was Michael Shermer.
Michael
I
Shermer.
quoted.
Yes, exactly. You quoted Michael Shermer.
Do you know who that is?
I barely looked into him, not very much, but he's like, I think you say in the, I know what you say he is, which is he's like vehemently anti-conspiracist.
Yeah, that's his
so
whole
like
thing.
if he's saying it, then
I think he runs Skeptic magazine.
Okay, wait.
Which, as we all know, if you call yourself a skeptic, it means you're a skeptic. But actually,
skeptic as in skeptic of the narrative from the government, or skeptic of
no, as in skeptic of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Like their whole thing is debunking conspiracy theories.
Okay, so I didn't look into the Fort
Michael
Bragg
Shermer.
stuff or any of this stuff.
Okay.
But what I'm really confused about here is, you think it's impossible for this, or not impossible, more likely for this plastic ID to not have been burned, to have been completely incinerated, than it is that there's this vast conspiracy out of Fort Bragg to like train these operatives into committing terrorist attacks or subvert their government or cause sorts of like, you know, social chaos. Like, is it not just completely Occam's razor within the realm of possibility that this thing just didn't get incinerated in an explosion?
Yeah, of course. Totally.
Okay, well, why did you make a whole post about it then?
Because Michael Shermer was concerned, and I was like, fuck, if Michael Shermer is concerned about this.
But
it's my heuristic.
So it's just like
when my doctor prescribes me medicine, you go, well, how do you know that the medicine works? I'm like, well, because the doctor said it does, and that's as good as I'm going to get.
Right.
If the guy whose whole job is to debunk conspiracies, even ones that I think he's wrong about, and he says, like, what the fuck's going on here? I go, kind of interesting, everyone.
But that's it. It's just like, oh, well, you know, this is my litmus test usually, but he seems a little skeptical, therefore now I'm a little skeptical. Do you,
Yeah, basically.
If Michael Shermer hadn't said this, would you not think, well, this is kind of a, okay. But now let's take Michael Shermer,
known that his thing.
Let's remove Michael Shermer from the equation. Do you not think it's kind of stupid to think that, hey, maybe this ID just didn't get incinerated? Like maybe whatever this material
I wouldn't even have known.
Doesn't burn. Well, now you know, right? Okay, now you see this piece of plastic ID, this government ID. It's a little singe from a.
Yeah, you know what I should do? I should follow up with what Michael Shermer's found out about it. Do you have a problem? Hold on. Do you have a problem with me using other people as heuristics and saying?
Well, yeah, if what they say
part
is
of what
stupid,
informs.
If what they say is just like a very like, if I can think about it for 5 seconds and be like, well, that doesn't really point to a.
So why do you think
conspiracy.
Michael? Right. Okay. So why did Michael Shermer say that? Do you think Michael Shermer's stupid?
It's just based on all of what I know about him, which is this tweet. Yeah, but maybe he has some other smart ideas.
Okay. Then respectfully, I do not take your opinion on this issue seriously.
Okay. Fair enough. Can we talk about USAID? That was your most recent.
Sure.
article.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you mean USAID because it's so fucking gay?
Got it. I hate that made me laugh. God damn you. Like that wasn't a joke. I did laugh. You said we could cut 20 billion safely. And I took issue with your article.
No, I said we could probably cut whatever Mike Benz suggested, which was more than 50%.
Right. Why do you hold Mike Benz in high regard?
It's a good question. I wrote about it in the Substack article. Why don't you tell me what I wrote? Given that you're bringing this up.
You said, well, Mike Benz is kind of pro, you could even consider him pro, like, to the establishment. He thinks USAID, even in and of itself, isn't a bad idea. He actually defended kind of the institution of USAID. And then he talks about the problems with it. So you're saying because he gives credence to the idea that it should exist, he's obviously not someone who wants to delete it like Elon Musk or Donald Trump. Therefore, we should...
Yeah, it's actually a pretty...
On it.
When someone goes on a platform that is favorable to them and they exercise restraint and they even try to steel man the other side, that's generally a sign of, okay, this person is To me, that's a heuristic.
At least
for,
good faith. Yeah. Like he's
and
like trying.
incredible.
Yeah.
And then and I listened to the Joe Rogan one and the Tucker Carlson one, and he endlessly cites examples of ridiculous stuff that I would consider waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right. And you put some of these in here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me go through. Oh, I got to drag this on the other side. Give me
It was I know the one off the top of my head. It's $1.5 million for Serbian DEI.
Okay.
Yeah, in the workplace.
What's your problem with that? Like just offhand.
That money should go to Americans.
So this is like a zero-sum game thing. We can't give out foreign aid because if it's for something I disagree with, it should go to us.
Are you asking if the allocation of dollars is a zero-sum game? Yes, by definition it is.
Right, but it seems as if, we can't give anything to anyone until we solve all of our problems. This is like, if anything, that's kind of something you reject.
I didn't say that.
Like the whole Peterson clean your room.
Yep, I didn't say that, and neither did Mike Benz.
But you just said we can't do this because it should go to Americans.
Yeah.
Right.
I said I think here's what I believe. Mm-hmm. I think that there are probably at least 5, maybe 10 other ways that $1.5 million could be spent in the United States.
Wait, is it million or billion?
1.5 million.
That's it?
That's it.
That's like nothing.
I know. And you know what? During the housing crisis, well, hold on. There's one house that foreclosed. It's just one. What happens when you take a bunch of small things that are shit and then put them together?
Well, let's talk about just the Serbian DEI thing. What's your issue with Serbian DEI? You know, like Serbia had an entire ethnic cleansing of people because of their like lack. You're very good. You watch Destiny?
Do you notice what you just did to me right now? Do you watch?
No, I actually don't. But I have watched Destiny.
So I picked this specific narrow example so we could focus the discussion. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, but that's such a small example. And then you said, well, let's just stick to this small example.
Sorry.
Very crafty.
I know. I wasn't trying to be
unconscious.
So
I know. It's unconscious.
But I see what happened there. Okay, look. Let's talk about the specific issue with this.
Sure.
I think it's not a big deal, as insofar as I think I support what this is promoting, but I also would acknowledge that this is not a very large amount of money, and it's not something to be upset about. This is a rounding error.
Okay, on that point, let's do this.
Let's start with just the Serbian DEI, and then move on from there.
Let me address the second point to make this conversation more fruitful, because I'm using this as a proxy.
Yeah, obviously.
For let's say there's 10,000 other programs like this that are of the equivalent. There's like 70,000 for Irish opera to promote DEI.
Yeah, Transcomic.
So when you add up all that stuff, yes. So we'll just stick with that one. And according to Mike Benz, there's like billions upon billions when you add these up.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's upwards of 40 billion. The only reason that this humanitarian aid is no longer the first thing is because governance has taken over in the past 2 years because we're giving money to Ukraine, right? So like this used to be the majority of what we spent it on, and you might not consider that humanitarian aid, but this is the reason I pick this example apart is because Serbian DEI program, as in like, hey, promoting acceptance of people who are different. In this case, I think it was LGBT people in a country that, as of the past 20 years.
So I think that's So I think in principle that it would be a good cause, but what you have to justify to me is instead of giving $1.5 million to, for example, community activists in the south side of Chicago that teach underprivileged youth technical and trade skills, we're going to instead give that money to Serbian DEI programs. But I'd say nope.
Why is it an instead? Why is it an either or thing?
Because do you think you can just print money infinitely?
Well, we can, but I know where you're going with that. I don't agree with just printing money infinitely, but is it the idea
so let's assume,
we're not funding
let's operate under the assumption. Let's operate under the assumption we're an organization, we're a government organization, whatever. Mm-hmm. We're a household, we're a whatever.
Well, if you're about to present a dichotomy between one or the other, obviously, I would actually support, but it's not, because we can do both of those things. First of all, I think if it was an inner city underprivileged thing, maybe that gets federal funding, but it would probably come from the state, and the state would vote on that. And I would say, why not do both?
Give
of
it to the
things?
state. Okay.
No,
yes
the state
or no?
would be.
Yeah, hold on, because either we're having this conversation or not. Do you believe that when it comes to allocating U.S. tax dollars, there is a fixed pool per year,
yes,
or there isn't? Okay.
Yes.
So it is a zero-sum game now.
Okay.
So we admit
it's a zero-sum game, but if I could give 1.5 million to a foreign country to promote them, ideas, progressive ideas that might prevent them from doing another genocide that causes us to do a military intervention, and I can use some of the other billions, if not trillions, of dollars of discretionary spending.
No, stop.
1.001% of that to do it to inner city things. Why not both of these things? Like, because you're going to say we have to add all these up, and it's what, less than 1% of our entire budget to foreign aid. therefore we should cut all of that. And then, first of all, if you're supporting the party that's cutting all that, they're cutting all that, and then they're not going to do all those things you talked about. They're not going to give it to veterans. They're not going to give it to, inner city black, technical schools. They're just going to cut it and then pass tax cuts. So.
Okay. This is now, we agreed on the conversation and then we just changed it again.
Sorry. I'll stop pontificating.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. I don't like Elon Musk and I don't like what they're doing.
Well, you think cutting USAID is good vibes, I believe.
Yes, I think more than half of USAID could probably be cut.
Based on what?
Based on what Mike Benz outlined. And like we just said, we're using the $1.5 million Serbian DEI discussion as a proxy for all things like that, which add up to billions of dollars.
Okay, so
we're putting all of those things in the same category. Transgender opera, whatever it is, Serbian DEI, all of that adds up to several billion.
Tuberculosis shots in Africa.
Not that. That's not the 50% that I want to cut. No, that's why I said 50%, not 100%.
Okay, well, they are cutting 100%. Or it seems like they're just cutting it off.
Actually, I don't think they're cutting anything right now because they don't have the legal authority to do it.
Well, that's not going to stop them. But they're freezing it and ignoring judge orders. So, okay, but
I'm saying this is a principal discussion. Okay, you asked me why do I think that more than 50% of USAID could be cut?
Because this guy said that, and then the examples he cites are things you slightly disagree with, and then you think it's a zero-sum game.
No, they're not things I slightly disagree with. I think that there are, if we're going to spend that money, because maybe you can make the case that we should just lower people's taxes, right? Or increase the child tax credit, which I'm in favor of. Mm-hmm. Instead of giving it to Serbian workplaces to run DEI programs, which, by the way, have no evidence of being effective. I was on DEI program design teams in corporate America. I know for a fact they're fucking worthless. There are variations of them that are explicitly designed to rectify what other DEI programs that didn't work, the issues that those caused. Like Robin DiAngelo's DEI, zero evidence whatsoever that improves anything at all.
I mean, by her own metric, she probably admits that people are very recalcitrant when you...
There you go. So then there are DEI programs that call themselves DEI that are like, they're called bandages for that shit, where they come in and they give a pro-human approach. But I'm talking about DEI programs in Serbian work. I would say, even if they did work, would it be good to reduce that? Sure.
I thought we were already on that. I thought we were already on that page that you, like, assuming it does what it's saying.
Let's make that assumption.
If it was a bad program and you could measurably show that, I would agree with cutting it, by the way.
That's part of why I believe it. But for sake of argument, I'll say, let's say it works.
Right. I think, well, that's where we're, okay.
Yes, I think those tax dollars are better put in the example I gave. So if you're
but we're not doing that. So like, why support cutting the USAID?
Well, first off, I don't know what it's going to be used for. And first off,
why not?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't Trump raised the child tax credit?
That I don't know about. I would have to go look and see if he did. I don't. Think
and I know he was him and Tim Scott put the most amount of money in the opportunity zones, which had one of the biggest impacts on black communities.
Mm-hmm. And I'm
so
saying,
is there reason to believe?
Go ahead.
Is there reason to believe that money could go away from something that I regard as not a good use of resources when compared to where else it could be spent? Now you're saying, well, Paul, you don't know that it will be spent on other areas, therefore we have to leave it. I'd say no.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, first of all, that's not what's happening. We're not, let's say it's what?
Yeah, I fucking hate
very round number,
Musk
$50 billion.
When it comes down to it.
But then why are you writing articles running defense for them cutting USAID?
Because that's what I believe is true. USAID could probably be cut by 20% and we'd be better off. I believe that.
When you say we'd be better off, do you think that obviously it's a zero-sum game. I'm not disagreeing with that. Do you think that the less than 1% of our discretionary budget that goes to USAID, that promotes our soft power across the world so that we don't have to go in and use our military, is not somehow, by preventing that, we're somehow like preventing us from getting all these programs?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me. So, and fair enough. Your point that, well, we're like, I'm supporting and cutting these things, but I don't know that it's going anywhere else. So why cut it? It's like, okay, if I knew for a fact it wasn't going to go, it was just going to go to like capital gains tax cuts, then I'd say fuck it.
Not even that.
Keep it in
I agree with what you're saying, is that's my position, but not even that. Just the idea that like this very small amount of our budget is somehow like, oh, we definitely need to cut half of this because I ideologically disagree with what half of this is, and that's because also we need money for this other stuff. It would be better spent in America, as if there isn't a 99% of the other budget that we could be spending in that exists, like as if this isn't like a rounding error on stuff that is probably promoting our soft power everywhere. Like this is such a
Okay, yeah.
nitty gritty.
Do
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a separate discussion, which I would say I don't really know enough to have. I don't. By the way, I don't have. I need to do better at picking what I think it's worth talking about, because I've learned after having done many streams and talking to many Destiny fans that I truly am ignorant on foreign policy things.
I am too. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I'm
So we can have a discussion about. Well, I actually think that, there's, for example, a lot of countries hate USAID. The left-wing president of Mexico said, "Good, USAID should be shut down, and that money should come through more transparent humanitarian channels." Was, I think, her exact quote or something like that. I go, yeah, let's do that, because I think that the CIA and the State Department doing all these, well, we're the American empire, and we're trying to manipulate governments so that we can produce, or we can get them to put military bases in the places we want, so then we can access shipping lanes. It's like, my opinion, even though I wouldn't die on this hill and I wouldn't defend this and I don't ever make videos about this, would be, I'm very sympathetic to the idea that we actually cause more harm than good with our meddling in all these countries. But I am open to the fact that I could be wrong about that. And actually, and again, to steelman USAID, well, why did we spend $70,000 on a transgender opera? What Mike Benz clearly stated was, it's not about like promoting transgenderism or whatever. It's that I think the example was Bangladesh. We wanted to put a military base in Bangladesh so we could secure shipping lanes around there, but the government didn't want to. So what did we do? We needed to overthrow that government or get regime change in so that there would be a more favorable government to allow us to build a military base.
If you want to make the argument that promoting American, well, I'm going to agree.
But let me make the point, because let me make the point for your audience and mine, because I do a bad job of articulating facts because I'm the vibes guy. The reason we spent that money on the transgender opera thing or whatever was because people who are left-wing were in the opposition government. So they wanted to rally people who were left-wing to overthrow the government so we could put a military base there so we could secure shipping lanes. So
it's about
could have
promoting U.S. interests. It's not about,
so you and I
these
can
people
live
are starving,
in
let's go
relative
help
wealthy.
them. It's
correct.
If I help these starving people, will they give me something back?
Yes, and the right-wingers are wrong, because it's not even about like, oh my God, the USAID is they're funding transgender people just to get more transgender people in the world. It's like, A, that's not how it works, but B, like that's not even what's happening. It's literally a cynical U.S. foreign policy thing. Now, if I were a right-winger, I would just beat look at that, 70,000 to a USAID or USAID to transgender thing and just play the media game. But I don't believe in doing that. I believe in saying what I believe to be true.
But I guess this is my then issue with your being a radical centrist on this issue is right now, there's one party that is advocating for completely dismantling this in its entirety, which is going to cause a lot of deaths, already has caused a lot of deaths, caused a bunch of starvation in places. And regardless of why we do this and what is actually happening, the material outcomes is people need this medicine, people need this food, people need this whatever. There is some stuff that maybe you and I could both agree on is wasteful, but one party is saying, let's fucking gut this because it's stupid and I want to get rid of it. And we can get into conspiracies about the fact that USAID was investigating Elon Musk's involvement with Starlink and all that, but maybe that's not why.
I don't even know anything about that.
I don't know enough about it to say it's even valid. The point is,
okay,
you're taking the centrist position between, hey, I think that we should keep this, and maybe this has some fraud and waste in it, and let's delete this entirely. Do you not see how like that
I'm
is
taking,
kind of...
I'll tell you again what I said and what I believe. I agree with Mike Benz's diagnosis that he thinks, and he's researched this more than anyone, as far as I know, and he's reliable for the reasons I gave. And he's the one that gave me the example of how here's why the
like
right
a white nationalist, though, right?
Okay, have you seen my haircut?
Well, no, I mean like literally, he's like, hey, we should.
Did you say he looks like a white nationalist, or he is a white nationalist?
He is. Here, I have sources for this. Here, let me hand them to you real quick.
Oh, he's a white nationalist?
Mike Benz, yeah.
Well, now I like him even better.
See, there's like, when I would say something like that, I'd be like, I'm joking. But for you, I'm like, I mean, I don't think you're a white nationalist, but like.
I know. Yeah, and I purposely am leaving it ambiguous because I'm sick of.
Wait, why? Why would you not want to not?
Because it's a better way to deal with stupid
Everyone
people.
calls me a lib cuck soy boy, and I'm not going to be like, oh, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to embrace.
Do you know who J-Reg is? Do you know who J-Reg is?
Oh, we talk. Me and J-Reg talk. I watch.
Oh, you do?
With him, yeah.
Okay, well, I've learned a lot from J-Reg.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to link you this NBC article in Discord. This is about Michael Benz and his whole right persona online and how he's like literally a fucking white nationalist person. But I mean, hey, you can like not agree with this or think it's an invalid source.
What did you
refer to this person as
based
like,
on
hey,
your
well,
okay, based on your research and based on whatever this article says, what you put a probability? What is the probability that he is a like white supremacist?
it depends on how you use that term. Can I just read you a little of this article?
Sure.
So, okay, so this is a pseudonym Frame Game. Frame Game posted videos, participated in podcasts and live streams during the rise of the alt-right following Donald Trump's election. Frame Game avoided showing his face in his videos or appearances, during which he pushed a variety of far-right narratives, including the Great Replacement Theory, that posits the white race is being eradicated in America for politics and profit. In others, Frame Game said he was a white identitarian, rallied against the idea of diversity, and made montages urging white viewers to unite under the banner of race. In interviews with white nationalists, Frame Game blamed Jews for controlling the media and for the decline of the white race. If you were to remove the Jewish influence on the West, he said in one video, white people would not face the threat of white genocide that they currently do. That sounds pretty white supremacist, white nationalist to me.
Fuck
I know
Mike Pence. Does that change any of the facts around what he reported on USAID?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I would trust him less about it. I think clearly he's got a white identitarian agenda, and I wouldn't necessarily use him as my source for my entire position on USAID.
This is a very
especially when like okay. Here's the thing. When
can
you
I make this point? Can I make this point? Can I make this point? This is a fundamental intuition that we appear not to share. Because I, for example, have absolutely zero issue whatsoever taking Destiny's word on a lot of things.
Okay.
Are you aware that Destiny is a terrible
pest.
fucking person? By all appearances?
Yeah,
okay.
But I don't think
has
that being
effect
a sex
on whether
pest,
or not I think the facts that he presents at any given time are facts or not. Do I think that, does it cause me to regard him with skepticism? Yeah.
Two things. One, when you get too close, I think you're past your mic. It like echoes off your monitor, so just don't put your mouth past the pop filter.
I'm a very
second thing. Yeah, Destiny's a horrible person, sex pest, right? If he were to start talking about revenge porn laws or any of the things that he's been involved in, I would take that with a little bit more skepticism.
Yeah,
and when someone is involved with our aid being given out to DEI programs or any or other programs that might promote something that the right wing, like you said, is like, oh, it's trans, oh, it's minorities, whatever, and he's a white identitarian, yeah, I would take into a question how he categorizes that money and whether or not it's wasteful. And
I would go, I'm going to need to double check all the facts that he cites. Oh wait, I did.
I wouldn't write a Substack article where my entire opinion is informed by this guy. I would do some other research on where USAID would go. Well, obviously, because you already wrote it. But like, why is he your primary source? Why is the Tucker Carlson interview and a Breaking Points and a Joe Rogan your primary sources? Like, did you? Like,
I didn't.
Let me be clear. I'm not trying to claim that I'm from a position of authority. Like, I'm some fucking USAID expert. I didn't even know this shit existed. Like, this organization existed until 2 months ago. Okay, I'm a fucking idiot too.
Yeah, me neither.
But if I was going to write an article about it,
it's almost like there's other things we could be talking about that are more interesting, that we're both more knowledgeable and sure about.
I am much more interested in the fact that like thousands, if not millions, of people might be dying because of this than I am about whether or not mimetic feudalism is the thing. Like this.
Interesting. Okay, hold on.
I read all your Substack. I know all of your ideas. Don't worry.
Interesting.
Well,
so
all your Substack ideas.
Okay,
I know it's recent.
I've now identified the fundamental disagreement between you and I. You think that politics is more important than political philosophy?
Only insofar as, unless you're talking about how political philosophy can influence politics. Like, my material reality is more important than an idea unless that idea is going to change my material reality.
Yeah, that's by definition. That's pragmatism, essentially. So I would agree with that. That's like my fundamental philosophy.
Right, and sort of your whole thing about radical centrism and like memetics and the spreading of ideas is...
Do you disagree with the whole memetic? You don't...
It's funny. I don't. I think this is one of the things I don't disagree with you. But
FD Signifier loves me because of that shit. That's why he told you I'm his favorite problematic white guy.
The greatest sin is that you made me think less of SV Signifier for recommending you, because I think it's sophist bullshit. Because I think if you looked into this for 10 seconds...
The memetic stuff?
Yes. No,
okay,
sorry.
Now this is the most interesting thing.
Hold on. Spreading ideas the way that you have described them is true. So just for the context for my audience,
please.
Your idea of mimetic feudalism is, look, you could be someone with the largest platform in the world. You could be someone with a very small platform, but a good idea can spread throughout society, throughout a culture, based on how good of that vibe is, how good that idea is, how good that resonates with the people that see it. Right. That's more or less kind of how your mimetic feudalism evolves. And you call it feudalism because it's... Yes?
Well, the whole thing I call applied sociology because I like to pretend I'm a pseudo-academic.
Well,
are you referring specifically to the feudalism Substack I wrote? Because there's the meme adoption curve.
That is the one I read, and I think I also watched the video on this mimetic feudalism, yeah.
Man, I'm going to stop writing. I wish my Substacks suck compared to my videos, just FYI. My videos are much better.
Well, sometimes it's like 1-to-1, like the script of your video, right? Like the Brett Cooper one.
Those are first drafts.
Sorry, the Curve one is like pretty damn close, right?
The main ideas are often there, but I usually refine them a lot more. But okay, fair enough.
Sure.
Yeah, I get the point.
I'm not shitting on you for that. If I were to do a Substack,
how is it sophistry?
Because this stuff exists. People are already talking about this. There's such a thing as studying how memes. First of all, the word meme in and of itself is to describe an idea pervasive through society.
Correct. Yeah.
Imitation of that.
It's analogous to gene.
And so you've invented this, and this is probably because you like Jordan Peterson. This like insane like schizograph and still wow.
I used to like Jordan Peterson.
Oh, you don't like them anymore? Okay. Well, all right.
Not so much.
Hey, I've raised the agreement from 5 to 6% now, and the more we can grab.
I think we're more. I think realistically, if we hash this out, I think we're probably at 70-80%.
I don't think so. Okay.
I don't really think we actually disagree on that much based on what I've heard from this conversation.
You're happier that Trump won over Kamala because of the border.
Yeah, but when we break down all the reasons, I think we actually align on a lot. Well, that's where. Yeah, fair enough. That's the 20% we disagree, but that's fine.
All right.
Meme theory, you think it's sophistry.
The reason I call it sophistry. No, meme theory, the idea of how an idea spreads through society is not sophistry. And this is why I'm like, you're not wrong to talk about this. What sophistry is to take this concept that is studied by sociologists that you can find papers on. And by the way, I'm not an expert on this. I Googled it for 5 minutes and I was like, oh yeah, people have written papers on this. And then to say, well, actually, I have my idea of meme feudalism and it's about this like mushroom extending structure. And here's this like, Z-axis, XY, rhizomatic structure of mushrooms and all this. And this
it's a Deleuze and Guattarian term, very postmodern philosophy. I borrowed from postmodern philosophy. If I was a right winger, I'd be in trouble for that.
The idea that you're making this as like your own idea, as if this isn't something that exists, like applied sociology. That's what sociology is applied. Like that is the whole field is like, hey, let's study this.
I think you're just mad you didn't coin the term first. You're just mad I got there first.
The difference between you and me is I have a conversation with JJ. I think you watched it, where I think, oh, this is something is called piss politics. It's when we're shoving them, their faces in the piss. And
that's right. Which
is like it's funny. But like, I know that's not my idea. I'm not going to pretend like this is some like fleshed out like thing. I'm not going to draw diagrams and graphs about it because it's like, it's a thing that people have been saying we should do. And I'm saying, oh, let's just give it a dumb name.
First off, I don't know. When did I claim that this is my novel idea? It's a synthesis of different frameworks. It's a recapitulation of
why does this need to have, why?
Because it's funny. I'm advancing the field of pseudo-academic applied sociology.
The idea that
this is just, you understand that this is totally just your opinion, right? CJ the X loves it, FG Signifier loves it.
Yeah, and I think less of them for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, that's
like,
fine.
I don't know how they can read this stuff and be like,
I'm not in the business of arguing about your particular preference or opinion of how I go about doing something aesthetically.
Okay. All right. I think it's
all the idea. You don't disagree with the ideas themselves. You just disagree that I'm basically puffing myself up.
It would be like if I talked about like, hey, if you take your shirt off and flex in front of a camera, people will give you more views. And I'm going to call this like aesthetic pervasiveness. And this is my concept of like how people are attracted to naked bodies and like just reinventing.
Yeah,
and
if you had a persona of a fucking edgy, douchey, ironic guy, that might work.
Is your whole thing a persona? This is what I asked at the beginning. Is this a joke?
I don't know what's a joke anymore. I hung around with J-Reg too long.
J-Reg's a whole different beast. He's under like 17 layers of irony. So like, I don't even know if he could be a robot, like in a fucking horse suit and a fucking all sorts of different
You should
things.
regard me with the same skepticism.
Yeah, but God, I don't want to be mean to you. I really don't want to be mean to you.
Oh, really? You don't want to be mean to me? Yeah, this whole conversation has been nothing but cordial.
This is not being mean, by the way.
Please be mean to me. I would actually be annoyed.
Okay, well, J-Reg's funny.
That's fine.
Although you did make me laugh in your legal.
I know I'm not funny.
Do that. No, you've got.
I'm neither funny.
You've made me laugh
a
couple times in this conversation. Well, I agree with that.
Well, then what did you mean by J-Reg's funny?
J-Reg's funny. It's a spectrum. We can't have funniest.
You know what? I'm so arrogant enough, or I guess I'm so humble. I'm so humble enough that I'm willing to accept that J-Reg might be funnier than me. As long as you don't think I'm spreading misinformation, I don't care if people think that I'm a douche. I would care if they think I'm saying something that's false. So as long as I'm not saying anything false.
Well, I do think you're saying false thing. I don't think you're well, I don't know, maybe you're a douchebag. I don't think you're a douchebag. I think you're saying,
of course I am.
Like, I think if you had the same platform as Tucker Carlson, you'd be an incredibly harmful person, because you'd be spreading these ideas that are so lost in the sauce
Okay.
and have nothing to do with like politics that you
I believe that you believe that,
and you're spreading misinformation, and you're telling people that they should care about this like inane bullshit when like we are currently in a cultural moment where people are dying because of these stupid fucking policies, and you're listening to this like white nationalist Joe Rogan
I think you are narrow. Yeah, I think you are narrow-minded in your approach to talking about these issues. Only serves to drive further division and lessen the likelihood that people who are rapidly polarizing can actually get along, which is what we need.
Well, what's crazy is like I have a whole video on talking to people I disagree with, and obviously
I have a video saying I'm not racist. So how, you know?
Well, no, I'm not saying that disproves anything. I'm saying what the distinguishing thing here is when I talk to like a Trump supporter in real life and I try to like make that connection, like I'll try to reach across the aisle. I'm not gonna like demonize them outright. Like I'll see how far I can pull them. And this is what you apparently do with your racist friend. I do this with my Republican friends. I think that's a whole different ballgame than I have a platform on the internet to thousands of people. And in a moment where a lot of terrible things are happening that you would agree are terrible, you don't agree that mass deportations are good. You're running defense for the party that is doing all these ostensibly terrible things and saying, well, actually, I'm a centrist because I'm taking the best ideas from both, but the best ideas I'm taking from this party are like they're inane little like, oh, maybe it would be good if we didn't kill people and followed the 10 Commandments. And the ideas I'm taking for this party is, yeah, I disagree with mass deportations, but I am happier that Trump won over Kamala. It's like, what do you even give a shit? Like, or is this just all kind of a game?
I think I care more than you do, and I think I'm more serious about it, because if you were as serious as I would, you wouldn't be a different person off camera than you are on camera, which is what it sounds like you're saying. When I'm talking to my Trump supporters,
I'm a different person?
Yeah, you just said when I'm talking to Trump supporters, I'll tell them one thing, but when I'm on my platform, I'm gonna fucking call them.
No. I'm saying if you have a platform and I'm talking to someone who is like, if I'm talking to Michael Knowles, like I did, right? I'm not going to be like, well, hey, like buddy, like let's try to find some common ground.
Okay, I believe that.
Like an ostensibly terrible person, not you.
Cool.
Him. He's an ostensibly terrible person who needs to be pushed back on. Versus if I'm talking to someone on a human level, I'm not like there's almost no common ground that's going to be found.
Interesting. Okay, you and I have different relationships to our audience. I think you think your audience is stupider than I think my audience is, which is saying a lot because my audience is dumb as fuck. Look at us converging on the same jokes. Like I said at the beginning with Stephen Wolf, the first 15 minutes of that was him saying we need blasphemy laws. Mm-hmm. Now, I trust that anyone in my audience, certainly, who sees that and goes, well, this guy's fucking dumb, and I sure as fuck am not going to support Christian nationalism. Now, you say, but Paul, you need to state that explicitly and be a dick to the guy. Like, no, I don't.
Well, you don't have to be a dick about it.
Okay.
You just be like, hey, I think this is ridiculous, like you did.
Which is what I said.
Right. And you push back on that thing, and I appreciate that. But do you not think there's a non-zero? Look, okay, if you think there is even a percentage chance that the Chinese nationals have a plan to shut down our American power grid through the southern border,
which it sounded like we both agree there's a 100% chance that they've been working on it.
That they've talked about it, yes. Not that it's a very likely outcome. Now,
okay, fine. I don't know what very likely is.
Whatever percentage you put on it. Do you think there's a chance that any one of the 27,000 people that are subscribed to you might be convinced by someone that they've never been introduced to before, like a Stephen Wolf, and start advocating for a Christian nationalist?
Not if they're my viewers, no.
Agenda.
Of course
not if they're your viewers.
Correct.
Do you think every viewer is 100% ideologically aligned with you?
No. Let me say, not if they have common sense, not if they're for free speech, which most people are.
Not if they have common sense.
Hold on. We just have fundamentally different views on how this works. If I bring a guy on here and he tells everyone that he's for blasphemy laws, which is, to be clear, and I said it there and I'll say it again, the dumbest fucking shit in the world.
Yes.
Which will be turned against you and is idiotic.
Okay.
I trust that people, and this is an assumption, and this is not everyone, but most people have enough common sense, at least at this point in the world.
Most. Well, so you admit it's not all of them, though.
Yeah. Okay. Of course not. Do you think anyone who watches your videos might come away with some idea that you didn't intend them to come away with?
Yeah. Why was I? I'm much more careful about who I'm bringing on and why this whole conversation I'm pushing
Hence,
back on.
you think your audience is on average stupider than I do, than I think mine is.
I think
the
people are
average
susceptible
person
to
that comes
ideas,
across,
and if you put people and present them with ideas and it's exclusive of kinds of ideas, regardless of how extreme or not extreme they are, they're going to be more exposed to that. Which is why platforming people is a very dangerous game.
Yeah,
and when
see,
you do platform
we
people,
have-
you have to push back on the things that are really, really fucking crazy.
We have fundamentally
So
different views.
if you push
about
back
how
on the blasphemy
ideas
laws
work.
and the free speech, which I acknowledge is insane, and most of your people would probably be like, yeah, like I don't think this guy is, you know, has
Most
what
of
it
your
takes, right?
audience would agree with that.
100% of, well, no, not 100% of my audience would be anti-free. I think there's some chunk of them would be like, oh yeah, blasphemy laws, that might be cool, right? Like you'd probably say the left.
And you
wing
think
would
it's
be
your
anti-
job to now filter all of your content
Yes.
to appeal to these people?
Yes,
Yeah, I
it's,
just
it's
don't.
your
Okay,
job.
that's-
You have a
it's-
responsibility for the
Again,
people
we
in
have
your
fundamentally
audience.
different views on how this. Yeah, I do, but not 100% responsibility for every single one
Right.
of them.
So
You know
that's
what? No, hold on.
why.
No, hold on. This is actually a completely different perspective we have here.
Okay.
My job, I have one job. Say what I believe to be true. No, it's not even that. When I'm on camera and when I'm making videos or whatever I happen to be interested in, don't lie. That's my one rule. That's it. And then I trust that whatever outcome occurs is the best outcome. But Paul, what if someone came on and saw you discussing blasphemy laws and they suddenly got converted? There's absolutely fucking nothing I could have done about that. And
You
know
could have
what?
not had the blasphemy law guys on your fucking show, dude.
More people got turned off by that than got turned on by that. Not speaking sexually.
And how many people do you think
I think
came away from
that conversation made it less likely that Stephen Wolf will get his Christian nationalist ways. Because all these people, because my massive platform, just saw him telling everyone he's in favor of blasphemy laws. Dumbass.
And you don't think there's any percentage of your audience that say, okay, I think this guy's stupid, I'm writing him off. And yet, the way that
Did
they're
you watch my
talking
conversation
about,
with J-Reg?
I did, but I forgot most of what happened because I haven't rewatched
Boom.
it.
Do I have a responsibility as a content creator? No. Boom. Goodbye.
That's
That's what it was. Do you think when Dave Chappelle tells a racist joke that he shouldn't tell that joke because someone might think that it's racist and become
That's
racist?
literally
because of
what
it?
Chris Rock did with the whole black people versus N-words, because he realized that a bunch of racist white people were co-opting his joke to like be more racist. And he said, you know what? The
great.
utility
I'm glad
that
we're
I get
here.
out of this
hold on.
funny joke is
I
not
see.
worth.
So you think that when a comedian tells not even a comedian, someone with a massive platform that does very serious social commentary, which Dave Chappelle absolutely does, when he makes a joke that's racist, you think he shouldn't do that?
I think that if you are Dave Chappelle and you're going to do that, your body of work should speak with you and say, okay, clearly this guy is not a racist person. In fact, I don't even agree with the Chris Rock saying, oh, I should stop using this thing. Because if you watch Chris Rock, you know that he's not being a racist. You know that he's not condemning N-words as he
No, but
puts it,
some people
right?
might.
Yeah, some people might. And I'm not going to say you're going to catch 100% of every bad actor that's ever going to come away from watching your stuff. That's not what I'm advocating for. That's the extreme. What I'm saying is you have a responsibility when you platform a Christian nationalist who's advocating for some pretty fucking crazy stuff. And also, again, vehemently anti-gay person who you've now turned some percentage of your audience onto. And the only things you really push back on are, well, I don't like this blasphemy law
I turned
thing. Anyway,
more of a
let's say
percentage of my
sure.
audience off than on. I destroyed Christian nationalism more than I
of your
did.
audience on. I hope so.
Well,
Oh, cool. So you
that's a
can make that
separate thing.
joke and I can't? All right, cool.
That's a separate thing. I think I did exactly what I wanted to do. Just like when I debate Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson says all kinds of crazy fucking shit.
Yeah, he's insane. Yeah. And
Do you think I should confront Destiny when I'm debating him about his fucking sexual escapades, given how much he talks about dating?
Well, I'm just not
advice
going to
and all
talk
that?
to him anymore because of that.
Do you think
shit.
do you think I have an obligation when I'm
If
talking?
you still talk to him?
Yeah, if I talk to him again.
Because he doesn't seem very remorseful.
That
about
one
it.
I
I'll
actually
be calling
kind of
him out on
believe. That one I actually do kind of believe, because I think a lot of my audience
You don't
actually
think maybe
respects
if he
Destiny.
and also if he respects your opinion anyway, that he should maybe take into consideration.
Well, had
yeah,
this
like,
not,
this
you
is
know, believe it or
terrible.
not, had this not happened, actually, I was planning on my next conversation to get into some of this stuff, which has been my fundamental curiosity the whole time, which is, Destiny, how do you think your childhood has affected who you are today? Because that's fundamentally the lens of how I view everything.
Can we talk about that? Actually,
Yeah.
I saw in your CJ conversation, and this maybe was a joke, but you mentioned your parents fought a lot, and like you would always see like both of their sides, like, what
Yes.
they had to offer. Is that?
Oh
do you
my
think that's
God.
why you're centrist?
The radical centrist joke suddenly makes so much sense. Yes.
But is that
I'm
like
condemned.
actually like what has
That's-
informed
yes.
your politics?
My parents, they both loved me very much, but they did not get along well. I put extremely mildly, let's say. And it would be, I'd hear my mom's side of the story and I'd hear my dad's side of the story. oh, your
And then you
mom's
take the best parts
wrong
of
for this
both.
and this. Yeah, but I would see both their perspectives, and then I would see what the fight actually would be. And I saw what they didn't see. And for like 20 years that happened, and I kind of built up a muscle for it. And so maybe, just maybe, one's childhood affects who they are as an adult, and maybe, just maybe,
Turn it
one's
around on
sense
me.
of humor.
What's my childhood? Why am I the way I am?
I don't know. I'm not.
No,
I
it's just I'm saying no. It's speculate, armchair psychoanalyze.
I
I'm
have
just
no
curious.
fucking clue.
Oh, come on, you gotta just make something up. Something about me being a fucking libtard. What are my parents like? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. I'm not saying I'm not gonna hold this against you. I just think
There's
it'd be
so
funny.
a million ways. All right. Let me guess. Let me think. Were you pretty small and weak in high school?
Close. What's the next most likely thing?
From being small and weak?
That would convince someone to get strong and fit.
Were you beat up a lot?
No. Okay. I was fat. I was fatter. I was
okay.
chunkier.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Respect.
And that's why I'm a progressive, because I was fat and I want to redistribute the mass to other parts of my body.
Listen, that's based. I'm for that.
Yeah. Do you work out?
I do
asked
work out,
again,
yes.
yeah.
I know. I do. Yes. I was at the gym at 5:30 this morning.
Hell yeah. Well, you shouldn't work out in the morning. You're burning all your gains, dude.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, if you don't eat before, then you're burning whatever reserves
Well, I eat
you
within
have.
one. I eat within 1 hour.
You eat at 4:30 a.m., dude?
No, I eat within 1 hour after the workout.
No, you gotta do it before.
No, your metabolic window's at 1 hour post workout.
This is bro science. All right, we can get off.
Yeah, we'll
this.
do it later.
I don't fucking know shit. I
My
mean, obviously,
childhood, my
I know
point
something.
is, yes, my parents fought a ton, and that affected why I try to see the best in both sides. Now, what is the obvious danger that produced, and the one that you probably think is true?
That
Paul, not all
one side
sides
are equally, yeah.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
And hence, what is, by the way, what is your actual name? You told me last time. It's got an S at
Niels.
the end.
You can call me Niels. Yeah, Niels.
Niels, that's right.
Yes.
For some reason, I thought it was like Dirks, like Dirks Bentley, but Niels. Okay.
You can call
Niels.
me Dirks Bentley. That's a cool name. I felt like my own detective agency.
Yeah.
Dirks Bentley, PI.
That's a country artist. Niels, the permanent problem that I have, and this is a real problem, and I'll drop the irony for those who are autistic enough, or too autistic to be able to tell. I genuinely worry about the degree to which I care too much about political issues that I have no control over.
Yeah, that can rot your brain. 100%.
Correct, and that is 100% a
years.
result of my childhood, which is externalizing internal conflict. Well, if mom and dad get in a fight, then I feel bad. So what's my job? To not feel bad? Go solve other people's problems. And what is the ultimate archetypal version of that?
Yeah. You talked about this in the CJ. It's like, what is your mission statement of your channel? And it's to try to, you agree,
Basically,
this is ambitious.
to stop
try to
everyone
solve the
to
fighting.
Stop everyone from hating each other, or stop as many people as I can, because some people are doomed.
But okay. And
am I aware of the pathological danger that presents by trying to both sides people that shouldn't be both sides? Yes, I'm very aware of that.
Let's skip that. And this is me being 100% sincere. I'm turning aggro down to 0. Before it was at 2. All right.
Nobody loves low aggro Niels more than I do.
Do you think that saying that someone like a Brett Cooper, a Daily Wire,
Excuse me?
fully Brett Cooper, like a Daily Wire,
Daily Wire?
former Daily Wire pundit.
That's almost the most important detail, and the reason I made the video.
In the video that you were quoting, her first video on her channel, she is talking about the dangers of all of the pro-vaccine people, deep-throated support of Donald Trump, like pro every conservative thing you could think of.
Yeah.
But she's saying, hey, let's not cancel liberals who try to move a little right. Do you think that maybe that's
and she said that and she markedly disagreed with Matt Walsh on Jeffree Star, for example, a member of the LGBT community, which I think is important.
She's not a horrible homophobe. She just supports the people that are going to overturn gay marriage. Like, great. Okay. Like, that's
you think
radical
Donald Trump's going to
centrism.
overturn gay marriage?
I think they're going to try. They've already introduced bills to do it.
Well, look,
You
Roe
think
v.
he's
Wade got
not?
overturned. It's not impossible.
You're back.
Roe v. Wade got overturned. I wasn't expecting that to happen.
Right. Okay. So now I'm very much expecting the people that have been promising that, and they despise Obergefell, want to get rid of Obergefell. Why would I not think they're going to do that?
Yeah, that's a problem. I would very much disagree with that. Okay. Like that it would be bad. I believe it would be bad if they did that.
Pushing people as like, hey everyone, like I want to solve all the fighting. By the way, everyone go emulate this person
on our infrastructure than I am about Obergefell getting overturned.
Well, one of those things is patently more likely in my mind, but
Really?
also
See,
again,
how would you? Honest question. How the fuck do you know?
well, because one of the parties in power right now is saying we want to do this and we're trying everything in our power
Yeah.
to do this.
Okay. Right.
And
Yeah.
on the other side, there
China,
is
who we're about to potentially gear up with war with, knows that this is the number one strategy and the most obvious fucking thing.
That's the number one strategy, is to have people coming over the southern border and
Why
shoot
wouldn't you?
substations. It's not about why wouldn't you. You think this is their number one. First of all, do you think you're so intelligent that you've discovered China's number one most effective war policy against the USA, and they have no other way?
I do think I'm so intelligent, but maybe not their number one more so. But the number one most obvious first thing on the brainstorming session when they get in the session and they're like, all right,
why do you
fuck
think
over
that?
America?
I think the Project 2025 thing and everything they've been saying, because they've been saying it. Why do you think China's definitely going to do this?
Because I think that the average Chinese general has an IQ above 70.
So because who told you this was the best strategy?
Deductive logic. America, China may or may not get in a war. America, China, preparing for war. What would China do in case of war? Well, given that the border is basically completely open, we can get people in, and we know for a fact they've gotten in, why don't we send people up there, and then in the event that a war breaks out, we can have them do coordinated attacks on whether it's the infrastructure or telecommunications lines or U.S. military bases, stuff like that. Probably not U.S. military bases because it would, they want to disrupt the economy and all that.
Can I try deductive logic and tell me if I lose you? And this is going to sound condescending, but I promise you this is just me just thinking about this. All right. I'm a Chinese general, and I'm planning on how to disrupt America.
Huang Zhang?
Lu Xi. So Luxi. Okay. And I say, I'm not going to do the accent.
We should cut that out, by the way. Some people might think that anti-Chinese racism is acceptable now.
Well, you can be anti-Chinese national if you're against them taking over Taiwan or something, but yeah, don't be racist against Chinese people, guys.
Yeah.
Like one of the parties is.
Except the communist ones. It's okay to be racist against the communist ones.
If I think that I want to disrupt the American grid system,
yeah,
and I'm going to sit down with all my other generals and plan out this top secret plan to subvert American infrastructure.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe I might have an idea that is just ever so slightly more complicated than someone who's sitting around at their desk on the computer could figure out in 10 seconds?
Yeah, they probably have many, many, many plans.
And do you think the most likely one is the one that you thought of?
Oh, I think that's one likely one.
No, you think it's the most likely because it's your number one issue on why you think Donald Trump is good for the country on his immigration policy.
No, I just told you what I think. I think that it is whether or not likely. Again, I have no way of possibly knowing the probability, but it's more than zero, which is fairly high. And I have no
everything more than zero is a 0.1, 0.001.
True. I don't know. I mean, my honest, and again, this is just based on my knowledge of reality. The probability that over the course of the next 40 years of my life, I will not experience living in a society of serious civil discord is almost zero. Almost zero.
Yeah,
I'm talking people I know could die. Mm-hmm. I'm talking my life savings wiped out. I'm talking power grid goes out. Something
I agree
to that
with you,
effect.
but let me be clear. People I know, their families are getting deported right now. They're losing their health care. They're losing their jobs because of the current party in power that you ostensibly are running a lot of defense for and telling people that the people that support them are the center. That's why I'm upset right now. Because as much as...
now you understand my thing, which is the stuff that's happening right now could happen on a massive scale. And is happening, by the way. There's plenty. Okay, now this is getting to people who are affected negatively by the current administration. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, if a conservative tells me, illegal immigrants murdered my fucking daughter, I'd be like, okay, I can't really argue with that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but
what am I going to use? Facts and logic? Well, statistically, it's like that doesn't work. Would you then
support something like, well, that's bad, and let's talk about how we can secure the border better, and maybe we shouldn't deport all these people that are here?
Yeah, if I was in charge, I would not deport people. Yeah.
Right, but you're running again.
Yeah, because I think the alternative is worse. Because
you think the alternative is that China comes in and disrupts our power grid, and the only way we could stop this is if we secure the border.
The only way that I end up told you so in this conversation you and I are having is if it happens.
That's true.
Right. So there's literally no scenario where I win.
If it happens,
I'm just telling you, and I'm not telling you that I know. And like I said, obviously I can be too ironic. I mean this to the bottom of my soul. Like I do not invest in my 401k or any retirement savings because the probability that I'll need that money sooner rather than later is pretty high.
I mean,
so I'm telling you what I honestly believe.
Okay, actually, I unironically don't think. No. Hey, look, if you are like more on the side of struggling, first I'd sell those Catans because Catan is like $50. You know, like you can sell those. Good. But yeah, like I would not say that's a good idea, but I understand it. I'm not even going to say that's a crazy idea. What I would say is crazy is that you said one of your strategies for long-term financial stability is to invest in meme coins. I think you said on like your 2025 stuff. Okay, good. Thank God, because that would yeah.
Although I did make about a $800-900 on Dogecoin.
Nice. You know, it's so funny. I know the guy who knows the inventor, and in 2011 he told me to buy it, and I told him that's the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. And to this day, it is still the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. I just should have bought it.
My brother sold Bitcoin for like $250 one time.
Damn. Or that guy who bought a pizza for like 3 or just 6 Bitcoin or some shit. You know. Yeah. FOMO.
Anyway, so look. It sounds like we agree, and you are basically a centrist.
I think everyone watched.
Yep. You're progressive, but you can be centrist and progressive. Those are not radical centric. Excuse me. Look, I'm falling for my own traps.
Let me be very serious. Would you call me centrist? I'm going to tell you some of my positions. All right. Yeah. Progressive is, and I support democratic socialism, some German
Give me specific
Nordic
policies.
model.
Give me specific policies.
I support moving to a mixed private-public option healthcare system.
Yep, agreed.
That everyone's supported. Okay. I am pro-choice.
Yeah, with up until like the baby can feel pain. Like I don't know, 5 or 6 months.
Like 20 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Sure.
What they have in Europe.
Well, that's like 11, 12 weeks. That's a little more strict than what probably
fine.
I would go.
But
I get it. I'm pro like addressing climate change. I think that's like an existential threat.
I think that climate change does pose a problem, and I think that we should move towards nuclear energy and put less pollutants in the air. Climate change, I'm way more worried about like AI than climate change, but sure, I think it's probably fine.
Okay, it's not the most existential to you, but you're still acknowledging it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure like even Bill Gates has been like, just to be clear, the world's not ending. Like, you know, we can do things, and you know.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm not
so we kind of
aligned with Democrats on gun policy. I think they go way too far, and I think there's better things that are way left of what the right is doing, but the Democrats don't know what they're doing. So I'm like pro gun ownership at the very least.
Okay, you're more right wing than I am as of right now.
Okay. So why do you?
I think you shouldn't be able to buy a gun unless you have taken a training course on it, which is like.
I agree with that. That's my policy.
All right. Well, that fucking right wingers will call me progressive with the speed limit for that reason.
Okay.
Do you see why I don't give a shit when people say I'm a conservative from the left or vice versa?
Well, yeah. Well, because all of what you advocate
You've just only seen me arguing with leftists. You haven't seen me arguing with
No, I just watched you argue with Stephen Wolf. I saw you argue. Well, I didn't actually.
That was not arguing with Stephen Wolf. Also, just to be clear,
that's what I'm saying.
And to be clear here, there is on that specifically, because there is a practical element of like, I'm not going to bring someone on my stream and just shit on them immediately, which is a clearly different strategy than you've taken. Okay, yes. But I respect that. I'm willing to give it out. But there is an element of like, even if someone's terrible, you have to be like, I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of something that he says something stupid. Then you say I should say that's more fucking stupid. Okay, fine, maybe you could be right. Maybe I should have made it more clear that I think he may be a closeted racist, and I need to publicly condemn and let everyone know that I think you might be racist, so I don't get canceled. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know, or push back harder on things when I try to ask him on things. So, whatever.
Okay.
Sounds like we still agree on everything, though.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Because it's interesting
Gun
to me
control?
that we allegedly, well, no, we can end it there. Like that, those would be like some of my major policies, right? And you seem to agree with all of those. So that's why it's so ridiculous to me that you're conspiracy brained enough to, well, not conspiracy brained. Like we said, this is a plausible thing.
Yeah, you want to talk about conspiracies for a little bit?
We can get into it, sure. But the fact that it's like, well, I'm supporting Trump over Kamala because not, you know, regardless of all of those policies that I've aligned with Niels on, that's not enough for me. Because of this one specific thing. Like, do you think that you and I would be 100%?
I'll tell you what conservative positions I support, or things that I would say are things that more conservatives would agree on than progressives probably. I'm for mandatory civil service.
Okay.
When you turn 18, a year or two, maybe the details could be worked out. But
that might
mandatory
be
civil
conservative,
service.
but you know what they had in Germany for a while was you can either do military
Nazis?
service.
Oh, sorry.
No, the more recent Germans,
Yeah.
not the
The good
current
ones.
AfD, the good
Yeah.
ones, right? So they got rid of this, and I actually don't know if I would be anti this. It is anti-freedom, but I like the idea of a mandatory civil service.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'd support it. You can talk about the morality of forcing people into this, but it's like, hey, if you don't want to be in the military, you can go work in a retirement home. You can go work at a homeless shelter.
Yeah, that's
for
why I
a
said
year
civil service, not
before
military.
college.
Yeah, I don't think
I
it should be
actually really
military.
like that. I think that builds community, and
Yep.
although it is, I think as long as you give enough options where it doesn't really feel like you're like forcing someone into a certain track, that's probably better for the country, and it doesn't really cause a lot of harm, and I might support that. I wouldn't even consider that conservative though, necessarily.
Yeah, but surely more conservatives would. That's why I just said more conservatives would agree on that than Pete Buttigieg suggested it. So I agree it's not inherently conservative, but philosophically, it's restricting freedom.
Sure.
And progressives are more
But
on the
I
freedom
bet
side
you
of things.
have more conservative positions than that.
Yeah, so that's one. Again, at the beginning, I think this is a philosophical point that Western civilization is built on Christian principles, and therefore we have to have some sort of explicit acknowledgement of that.
See, okay, wait. This is clarifying maybe a point we kind of moved off on.
Okay.
So I obviously acknowledge the founding fathers had this in mind.
Which
They
puts
thought
you in
about
the,
this,
there's
right?
many people on the left who would say, no, America is not a Christian nation.
Well,
And
I think there's
I
a
would-
difference between
Fair enough.
America was
Correct.
founded by Christians
On Christian
or
principles.
Protestants or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck, and also people that I would disagree with on a lot, versus what do we do about that now? Now I don't think we need to acknowledge it at all insofar as like, yeah, it happened, but like who gives a fuck? Let's talk
Yeah,
about
okay,
what's
that's where
best
we
for our
diverge
country.
completely.
Right. So why is it important?
Because how do I say this? The way that the moral systems that we take for granted are the result of being built on like Christian programming. And if we don't acknowledge that it's like fundamentally Christian programming, then we'll lose that morality.
So
This is, by the way, I'm aware this is a contentious thing that I certainly have no even desire to attempt to convince you of, because I couldn't even think of the right way to articulate it. But that is a belief I have.
But
It's like one of the central kind of claims in Jordan
because I hear
Peterson's
like
Maps of Meaning.
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
watch a lot of Jordan Peterson. He claims this a lot. I have no evidence to suggest that just because we don't say that it's Christian, somehow we can't hold the same moral values that
Yeah,
the
it's
best parts
complicated.
of Christianity.
Yeah, it's like, it's complicated. It's like saying, why do we take it for granted that we should treat everyone equally? Why do we take it for granted that everyone has
I think you can
inherent
pretty
worth?
easily raise a child to believe these things completely absent of any Christian influence and just say, look,
but
hey,
why-
you wouldn't like it
I'm talking
if someone
about-
did this to you, so don't do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the reality that we live in, why do we have the morality that we have?
Yeah, because of religions that obviously could.
Yeah,
trace
and
this
my
back to
argument would be
historical roots.
there's actually no way, I got to think of a word for this. There's no hypothetical that you could come up with that is actually based in reality that would posit an individual who is removed from that religious cultural programming, who could
Would
then
still
come up with
have
that. Yeah, because everyone is born into a culture. So there's literally no such
Right,
thing
but
as a
there's not
there's no
just
such thing as
Christian
a
cultures, right? There's like the Muslim cultures or
Correct.
whatever other pagan cultures, and they have
Yeah.
similar ideals that we would probably find some overlap on. So why are we to think that
True,
we must
but they're
acknowledge
also
this as a Christian nation?
Well, so I would agree with you 100% that that's the archetypes, that every society converges on kind of weirdly the same stories, even if they're independent from one another, whether they're across time or across space. But they differ in important ways. Like the Hindu caste system is explicitly the opposite of the Christian conception that all are equal before God, from the lowest peasant to the highest king.
Mm-hmm.
Now, has that played out in history? No. Did Marxists, did Marxism, should we just abandon Marxism because communism was bad? No. So, but but surely you recognize the important moral difference between like someone who says the caste system is a divine hierarchy and everyone is equal before God.
Sure, but again, that's why
That's why you and I
as references for how I should
Yes,
act.
but I'm saying
how I
yes,
shouldn't,
but I'm
if
saying the
anything.
reason you and I take those for granted is because we're the result of a mimetic evolution that has at its base, or at least as a major part of it, the idea that all are created equal. it's like saying, well, why couldn't we come up with an idea independent of religion? For the same reason that you can't birth a human independent of
culture or society.
No, even biologically. Like, you have to have genetic material there to produce the human. Like, I guess could you synthesize?
Right, but like you don't think
silicon
that
based?
Things,
like, fine.
These things existed before Christianity. These things existed before Islam. These things existed.
Correct.
Before
Yeah, they started on the Old
religions.
Testament. Yes.
But even before that, people knew like, hey,
Correct.
maybe we should, like
Yes.
people killed each other. But it's
Hence
like, hey,
your earlier point about different religions converge on the same moral principles, like treat your neighbor properly.
right. So why does it matter that it came from that? Like we can acknowledge it, we can learn history, but why do we have to acknowledge?
yeah.
Like what is your proposal of acknowledgement? Like just that we
Well-
say, like, 'cause, like I'm saying, yeah, I know it came from that. That's history. What do you think we should be doing prescriptively in society to
I don't know.
acknowledge
I think
this?
I think that we should. I think that we have to have an American mythology, and we have to choose who the heroes in our mythology are. And we did it with like Martin Luther King.
Can we,
and-
like, okay, yeah. Can we like drill down to like a specific one? Of
Yeah,
these?
like Martin, like they call them the founding fathers. Obviously, that's been complicated as of late because we found out they owned slaves, which is much to everyone's surprise.
we didn't find out, right?
Yeah, right. And Martin Luther King, believe it or not, did not have the most progressive views on gay people, being a Southern black
and he
Baptist
was,
minister in 1960.
Sure. But isn't this more to the idea that we shouldn't lionize any one person or dogma or anything, and that we should
Well,
try to
except
collectively come
for
to
the
better
archetypal
ideas?
perfect person. That's sort of the advantage of religion, is like Jesus theoretically, in principle, is the archetypal perfect person. Now you can say, well, what about the Bible verses where he talked about not beating your slave, but still keeping them? Like, that's why I'm not fully a Christian, because I don't think it was 100% right the first go around, but I do think the core ideas are there. And we need to acknowledge that because we can't come up with them rationally otherwise.
Wait, so you're not Christian? You're just like Christian adjacent?
I'm Christian adjacent, yeah. I probably believe in
Okay.
God, and I think the Bible's captures it, and I'm afraid to do psychedelics.
Okay. Interesting.
So that
Okay.
that tells you what my religious belief is.
I don't. Maybe this is just a lack of understanding on my part. I feel like you're.
It certainly
I don't
is. You seem to,
really-
based
yeah, I
on
don't really
based on how
understand
wonderful
what
this
you're
conversation,
advocating for.
based on how wonderful this conversation is going now, given how it started.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you fully understood me at all to begin with.
No,
Which is
it's not.
which is,
It's
to be
not a
fair-
lack
to be
of
fair-
understanding because
well,
I'm
hold on,
like,
to
I
be
don't
fair,
get it.
this
I'm
is
just
my
like,
problem because if anyone watches
why?
20 of my videos and comes away with the wrong impression, that speaks to my
I don't know.
inability to communicate
Well,
properly.
look, first of all, everyone in my audience, if you think I've been too harsh on P.F. Young, obviously his channel's in the description. You can go watch all these and figure out your own opinions.
please
on this,
don't.
and please go check them out. And
Don't
for
watch
the
my
record-
debate with Destiny.
For the record, in good faith to P.F. Young, when I reached out to him, I was the smaller channel. I just got lucky with my last video. So he.
Oh yeah,
is
the one accusing Matt
ostensibly
Walsh of being racist. Dude,
accusing.
fuck you, bro. Matt Walsh is cool as fuck.
Okay, now you're joking.
I think Matt.
All right.
Yes, I am. Exactly.
All right, let's try to end this off on a less mean pot because you've apparently been too mean. Let's talk a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
What's your favorite conspiracy? Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll be so stupid I'll be mad at you.
What do you define as a conspiracy theory?
Something
'Cause
with like
J.G.
very
McCullough's-
little evidence to prove it, but there is, a suggestion based on little clues here and there that there is something happening behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about, promoting an agenda, causing an event to happen, things that have come to light in the past, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Northwood, things that happen. We know these things happen, but we can't
But we
prove
didn't
them
know
at
at
the
the
current
time.
moment. Yeah, but
only
I would say
know they
most
happened
conspiracy
5 years
theories are
afterwards.
probably not true, and people use those ones that did come true to validate.
Yes, I believe
Ones
that
that are
happens.
not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is Operation Northwood? Would you call that a conspiracy theory?
If someone at the time, having tried to talk about it before it had been released to the public, had said, "Hey, I think the government's doing this," and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "You're crazy," and they're like, "Well, I've seen some like hints of it here, here, here." That would have been a conspiracy theory, and it would have been vindicated when it became released. Those documents became released.
Okay.
So, for example,
that does
if
not
someone
sound
says,
like really.
if
Okay, the
someone
way
says
you just
Bush did
defined it
9/11,
sounds like someone who has foresight is a
No, it's like, look,
foreknowledge.
because I'm trying to
Yeah.
like imagine the evidence, but let's pick something that hasn't been proven, right? That's still a conspiracy. Like Bush did 9/11, right? Like, I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm not saying that there's just not enough evidence for me to believe it solidly, There are just hints
Yeah.
that you could draw a narrative around to show that that is what happened,
Like
regardless
what?
of
What,
whether
do
or
you,
not it is.
what kind of hints do you think Bush did 9/11?
You could talk about, well, he used it as a justification to go after Saddam Hussein because he was mad about the Gulf War because his, dad had a gripe with him and it never got resolved. You could say that it was part of his plan to expand.
All goes back to
the
childhood, bro. I'm
security-
telling you.
Security
Fucking
state
9/11
or
was
whatever.
because George H.W. was, or which one's the older one? H.W.
HW is the older one.
Yeah, H.W. was mean to his kid. So then we had 9/11
A
happen.
1,000 different reasons. Maybe it was to enrich Dick Cheney because he had stocks and was former CEO of Halliburton. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is we can't.
Maybe
prove
Israel
it.
was involved.
I know how you get on that one. Yeah. Is that your number one conspiracy theory?
What do you mean
Or what
number
is-
one?
What's your this one's got to be true, guys. I have to tell everyone about this.
Oh, this one's got to be true.
There's no
there
way.
are pedophile
Zero
blackmail
way.
rings used by intelligence agencies.
Is that a conspiracy? I thought we just knew that.
Yeah, J.J. McCullough would tell me that's a conspiracy, for the record.
Well, to be fair, I haven't verified. I could have sworn there was some indication of certain CIA documents that suggest that they do something like this to some people.
Wait. Okay, well, it depends on what you mean by. I guess I'm using conspiracy theory. My definition of conspiracy theorist is, what would your average, Democrat consider this to be? Like if I said, I think Bush did 9/11, they'd go, that's a conspiracy. I think the Earth is flat, that's a conspiracy. I think NASA was originally made by a bunch of fucking Nazis. They go, that's a conspiracy.
Well,
But
why
if you
would they
find out,
say
like,
that?
oh,
That's just true. I mean,
because
you
most
look
people
up-
don't know about that, so they would just go, well, that sounds ridiculous. Like NASA, yeah, the space program was started by a bunch of Nazis. It's like,
I thought that's pretty well taught history about Operation Paperclip, right?
not my school, and not if it was, then you should tell all of my Democrat left-wing friends that, because they're
And
not
to be
listening
fair,
me.
they didn't stay Nazis when they came over to start NASA. That was kind of the whole point. Was like, hey, let's de-radicalize and use these people's knowledge.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is true, but I believe Werner von Braun hung the bodies of Jews outside his factory.
In America?
No, in Germany.
Oh, sure. These were Nazis.
But they weren't anymore.
Germany.
Oh, that's fine. Listen, you can hang
Oh,
as
no,
many Jews outside your factory as you want, but when
I'm
you
not
come to
saying
America,
they
that's
just
no problem.
came all
Oh, okay.
American and we love them. I'm saying that the implication when you say Nazis started the space program was there's someone might hear that who doesn't know and think, oh,
I see, I
some
see.
Nazis took a boat over and snuck in and were like, oh, we are American, let's make the rockets. That's a very different thing.
when I
versus,
say
hey, America
Nazi-
took the brains of all the Germans.
The word
and said,
Nazi, I
"Get
use
to
the
work,
word
asshole."
Nazi. I think I use the word satanic in the same way that most people use the word Nazi, which just means
Bad.
very, very bad. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want to go through the whole Elon Sam Hyde bullshit thing because we wouldn't agree on how to use the word.
Well,
there.
for the record, Sam Hyde could very well be a Nazi, and he does appear to be very racist. And what he says is racist, and I think that he is probably a net negative. And one of the reasons I want to one of the reasons I have no problem appealing to right wingers, and want to appeal to them, is because I would rather have them listening to me than Sam Hyde, because I think I'm a better.
That's a
person
noble
than Sam
cause.
Hyde.
But
well,
unfortunately, Sam Hyde is
many
very
would disagree.
funny. So
I know I know.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And it's funny because the far right people are way funnier than the boring, bland neoconservatives.
I've
who
kind of
wish they
noticed
were
that.
cool, which is very
Hence
upsetting to me.
The problem.
Okay, I know I said I wouldn't go aggro. I had one more thing. I
No,
wanted to talk
please.
about.
I
totally
prefer
forgot.
aggro. It's more fun.